Your words have been so broken. I've been under your hypnosis. Why did I sip that potion? I'm so done with holy ghosting. My birth, it is an omen. Lay me down up in the ocean until you see no motion. Right now I can barely focus. I'm showing no emotion. On your knees, show your devotion. My skin is black but golden. I'm not here for bragging, boasting. Ain't lying, I've been chosen. Mind is burning, heart's exploding. This is my magnum opus. Are you with me now? Said, are you with me now? Ain't felt this good in a while. They want us to simmer down. Can you hear me now? Am I going in and out? I stop and just look around to see if you're with me now. Tell me, are you with me now? Ready to put it down. Start at the bottom, already forgot them, but they won't forgive me now. You really ain't ready now. You haters just in the crowd. But still I just look around, are you with me now? Are you with me? Step in the fire, get ready to take it higher. Real coming out your amplifier. Y'all want every black man to be rich and pride. Why these weapons up and turn into shy, huh? Cell phone became your brother. Internet replaced your mother. You leaving homies on red. It's no wonder all your friends dead. Jealousy was a centerpiece, so my best friends turned to enemies. Sabotage my identity. Why they wanna treat me like a Kennedy? They wanna affect the legacy. Protect the heart, I cut off the extremities. I'll never be another piece in your recipe for social supremacy. Are you with me now? Said, are you with me now? Ain't felt this good in a while. They want us to simmer down. Can you hear me now? Am I going in and out? I stop and just look around to see if you're with me now. Tell me, are you with me now? Ready to put it down. Start at the bottom, already forgot them, but they won't forgive me now. You really ain't ready now. You haters just in the crowd. But till I just look around, are you with me now? Are you with me now? Are you with me now? Said, are you with me now? Ain't felt this good in a while. They want us to simmer down. Can you hear me now? Am I going in and out? I stop and just look around to see if you're with me now. Tell me, are you with me now? Ready to put it down. Start at the bottom, already forgot them, but they won't forgive me now. You really ain't ready now. You haters just in the crowd, but still I just look around. Are you with me now? Are you with me now? Whoa. I feel like coming now. It's too late to shut it down. Over the mountain now. Burning the valley down. I don't know where my mind is. Don't even know what time it is. Somebody stop the virus. I don't think I survived this. I feel it coming now. It's too late to shut it down. Over the mountain now. Burning the valley down. I don't know where my mind is. Don't even know what time is. Somebody stop the virus. Room full of bodies, but nothing but silence. Yeah, I'm quiet, but f*** all that shyness. Go crazy, turn this bitch into an asylum. You fly, but we ain't looking for pilots. I never bow down to a tyrant, it's highness. Even Jack said, f*** all them giants. What goes up comes down, man, that's basic science. Look at my iris and you'll see the fines. I'd rather not get involved with you. What's the problem, man? I'll solve all your sign. How you find when your time up? How you climb when your line stuck? Barbershop getting lined up. Yeah, your hair good, but your mind super clear. Uber everywhere. This sound like Superman is here. Are you with me now? Said, are you with me now? Ain't felt this good in a while. They want us to simmer down. Can you hear me now? Am I going in and out? I stop and just look around to see if you're with me now. Tell me, are you with me now? Ready to put it down. Start at the bottom, already forgot it, but they won't forgive me now. You really ain't ready now. You haters just in the crowd, but still I just look around. Are you with me now? Are you with me now? Hey.
All right. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ward Radio live stream. I am your host, Cardinellis, and today I am joined by a killer cast of friends here. We've got the man of the hour, Jacob Hansen, with Hayden, Carol, Luke Hansen, and Brad Whitbeck, and we're going to be discussing the Jubilee media broadcast that just went down earlier today. Yes, our boy Jacob Hansen was on Jubilee with one atheist, Alex O'Connor here, fighting the good fight with a bunch of other Christians. And he said some controversial stuff that we're just going to have to jump right into right off the bat that has definitely shaken Christian YouTube. One of them, our creeds are an abomination. Another, putting Doctrine and Covenants quotes in people's mouths, and just shaking it up, altogether shaking it up, right? So anyway, I'm turning you guys' volume on here. Let's just jump right in and talk. It's a Sunday, guys, so we don't expect any super chats. You know, it's I guess if it's not Sunday where you live, you can super chat us. Usually on this channel, we read super chats on screen, but they're not a requirement today. We're just going to try and give some deference to members of the channel and some of their comments. I will catch up on the people that have already, though, before we establish the rule. Jackson Pettit says, LOL'd at 36:27 in the Jubilee episode when someone mentions a verse from Ezekiel, but they flash a DNC verse instead. Jacob got Jubilee to study the Doctrine and Covenants, and it is totally right. It's hilarious. If you look at this spot on the screen, they actually put up a Doctrine and Covenants quote from the standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints when they were supposedly quoting the Bible. And the second super chat was Kevin Nelson says, less MMA / more musical chairs. Jacob, you were slow. I do have to say, Jacob.
So let's talk about this here. You guys, I'm going to give you guys the inside scoop about Jubilee. They used to allow people to like rush up there and it was like the first to get there. They don't do that anymore. Because apparently some people like literally got hurt. And so they were like, okay, moving forward, what we're going to do is we're going to have you guys raise your hands. We'll pick someone and then you guys will act like you're running up.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's a little inside scoop there on that.
Okay, so I'm actually putting this little section up on the screen just while we're talking about it so the audience can see really fast. But like, okay, so that's the time that you won. Okay, but I'm scrubbing through some of these others, and let me tell you, you could literally see Alex O'Connor. All right, as soon as they did the countdown, you could literally see him like covering his head and his ears because he knew that everybody was about to rush in, just like totally covering it. It was really funny. I'm going to try and pull up the clip while you guys talk. So anyway, guys, what are your thoughts? What are your impressions? I've got mine, but I want to hear yours first.
Well, first I have to make a huge shout out here to Hayden, who joined me in this wild ride. Did a great job, by the way. Everyone needs to give a hand to Hayden. I think you did an excellent job in your questioning and responses, and he made the thumbnail. So he was on the front cover. I know sometimes they'll mix up thumbnails, so I don't know, maybe they'll change it. But at least initially, Hayden was the guy they picked with that good-looking face there.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome, man. I saw that.
So what did you think, Hayden, just overall? I'm gonna talk plenty.
Honestly, I thought it was super fun. I thought it was awesome. I'm sure we'll talk about the dinner date that we had, but everyone is actually really nice. I mean, during your portion, when you revealed yourself as Latter-day Saint, people were upset. People are shaking their heads. People are mad. But before filming and even after filming, when we were at dinner with them, people were really nice. I never had anyone say, make any rude remark to me at all that, I'm not a Christian or whatever, they made me think. They were pretty nice. So, and I think we actually had a wide range of Christians there, actually.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there was one that was a very progressive, like, pastor.
Yeah. And he almost picked him. Did you tell him that? He was kind of thinking like, Jacob,
he was
the other guy.
He was kind of looking between me and the other guy, and he ended up picking me. Yeah. And we had Orthodox, Catholic, Protestant, really progressive, more conservative, kind of all over the spectrum. So it was an interesting group of people. And I mean, at the end of it, I kind of summed up what I thought. They got murdered. Like, this is one of the things I want to tell everyone who's going to watch this. Like, you're not going to watch this and walk away feeling like faith promoted. You're going to walk away going, oh no, what happened to the Christians? But I think, and this is what we can talk more about today, and I'm going to make a reaction video myself tomorrow and really break down the point, because there's very little time that you get to talk. You get one shot with Alex. I was lucky I got 2 because he picked me for the last thing, but you get one shot and you're going to have somewhere between like 2 to maybe 8 minutes max. And you got to like make your thing known. And so you have questions or whatever, and he's firing back and you're trying to think. And so I want to kind of slow it down tomorrow. I'm going to do a little breakdown on my channel and kind of break down the arguments. We'll do some of it today, I bet. But to break down some of those arguments so that people can understand. And Hayden, this is one of the reasons I wanted to shout out to you. As I was breaking down some of the stuff you're saying, like, I don't think people realized that Hayden or that Alex basically agreed with you.
He conceded.
And he basically conceded your point.
I wish I would have been able to then share the implications of him agreeing to that, but he always wanted to bring, and we'll watch it, but he always wanted to bring it back to gratuitous suffering. And it's like, that's actually not your claim. And actually, there's a clip, if you guys want to watch it here in a second, where he actually changes the claim. A girl walks up and says, "Can you remind me the prompt?" And he says something totally different than what the prompt actually was. I don't know if you noticed that.
Oh, no.
Well, he conceded to you actually twice. Like, Jacob, you were rushed in your very, very, very last interaction with him. But you'll notice the very last thing he said as he leaned back when you said, no, the cosmology of Mormonism doesn't require a God to have created all of this suffering. He actually leans back and he says, oh, yes, that's much more reasonable. And then you got cut off right at that instant. And it's oh, man, these are 2 big implications that need to be explored here.
Yeah, and one of the things is, too, is I want to make sure everybody knows, if you're going into this expecting, like, Jacob Hansen owns Alex O'Connor. Like, no, you're not going to go in and own somebody like Alex O'Connor. I think we were able to stand toe to toe with them. My analysis was Hayden and I stood toe to toe with him. We pressed it. We were right in there with him, and everybody else pretty much just got nuked.
And they are angry.
And they're mad about it.
Okay, well, I wouldn't say nuked.
To be fair, I think if I would characterize the way that Alex had designed his prompts, they were set for creedal Christianity to not have answers, you know?
Yep.
So like, I don't know that this is necessarily like a ding against the Christians who were there. He knows those arguments super well and was ready for them, right?
Yep.
I was surprised, and of course the cutting room floor is always a thing, but I was surprised at how weak the resurrection arguments were from the Christians.
Yeah, the Christians
and
actually
I loved that was your question that you went in, because it's so if you're just watching the video not knowing what's going on, this guy comes in and actually makes a good case, for the divinity of Jesus Christ. That's actually the one I'm talking about. Although the resurrection as well, I was surprised at their weakness. But Jesus Christ claiming to be divine, I love that was your question, Jacob, because that's one of their main things that they ding us on. So some guy comes in and does better than anybody else has done on this question of Jesus' divinity.
You're not a Christian, but boy, you're good at helping people see that Jesus was divine.
Yeah. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, yeah, so the Trinity's bunk. But anyways, let's talk about Mormonism.
Yeah, so we're going to go over some of these clips.
It was so great.
We're going to go over some of these clips, but I got to say what has blown my mind is it's obvious that Alex O'Connor was queued up for creedal Christianity, and it seems like Jubilee Media was as well, okay? And creedal Christianity is really angry. I think 2 of them did actually pretty well at showing, hey, you're not stupid if you believe. Like,
yeah, and I would say, let me make a quick comment. I actually think that when they edited it, I want to say that they kind of highlight, if I was going to say that they edited anything out, I think they actually tried to strengthen some of the Christians, because when I was there, like in person, I felt like, I think they edited out some comments that were just like really bad and awkward, so that they wouldn't, like, they kept the best that the Christians did have. So maybe my analysis, because I was actually there and heard everything that was said, like there were some that were pretty bad, but I think they, out of kindness, didn't want to have the people on camera looking.
It was far less polemic than other productions. It maintained the ethos of middle ground, you felt. Yes.
And the comments on it, the number one overwhelming thing that I've seen in the comments on this video have been, wow, that was an incredibly respectful engagement on all sides. Why, like, other videos on there are just like people getting super pissed and being all crazy. They're like, this is crazy, like, good. And a lot of that obviously goes credit to Alex, who of all the atheists is the most like level-headed and respectful and willing to give everybody a fair shake. So that's why everybody loves him, including the Christians.
Dude, I was impressed at his ability to like adjust the way he was talking to the person he was talking to, right? That was really cool to see that he was trying to speak to people on their level. I think that was a very good example of how to have a productive discussion.
I was about to say he has some definite Brad Whitbeck vibes. Like he definitely does. Like,
but more British.
More
for
British.
sure.
Sorry, you lost your accent, man. Now you're an American and Canadian.
Man, if Canadians had kept the accent, I'd be so much more exotic.
Exactly, we all would.
Yeah. So why don't we just dive right in for people that haven't seen it yet? It's on Jubilee Media. I'm going to be playing clips from the video. Do we have any specific timestamps that we want to jump into first? Because I have in the Discord a bunch of pics of everybody's reactions when you basically called their creeds an abomination, Jacob. And I am so ready to just jump into the reaction of creedal Christianity. But we can actually check out the actual Jubilee Media first. So which ones do you want to pump up?
What I'd like to do actually is go to Hayden's section. I actually would like to start with Hayden's because I want to make sure that people understand what happened with Hayden's argument, what argument he was making and why it was so good. So I'd actually like to go there, get Hayden's thoughts on it. I can give some of my thoughts and
okay. So what timestamp do you want me to go to?
Hayden, do you have that timestamp for when yours begins?
Yeah. Give me one.
I think I found it right here.
It is. Oh, I have it right here. Mine starts at 9:46.
Okay, so here we go with Hayden
and
Carroll.
I'll tell you when to stop.
Okay, on 9:46, browser. If there's any question whether or not this is done live, okay, here is the absolute answer right here. Okay, so here is 9:46. My man, Jubilee Media. Look, he got to the chair first. He got to the chair. Take some notes, Jacob. Take some notes.
Ooh. So close. Hey.
Nice to meet you. My
How's
name's
it going?
Hayden. How are you?
Hayden. Nice to meet you.
Would you say that theism or atheism better account for the idea that suffering exists and a purpose for it?
Depends exactly what you mean, because of course you might say that the world itself is more expected on theism, and since suffering needs the existence of the world, that it's theism, but granted the existence of a material world, let's say, I think atheism.
Okay. Why does suffering exist at all? Like in an atheistic worldview, what is the cause of suffering?
Oh, well, because however life began, it developed through a series of natural selection, which requires animals to develop senses that they wish to avoid in order to be more likely to survive. And that's why pain receptors evolve. In a world where not all of these pains are actually going to kill us, we're left with situations in which we're in a lot of pain but don't end up dying for it.
Would you agree that consciousness is necessary for suffering?
I would say probably.
Okay, here we go, my man. Talk.
Hold up. That was the key question that Hayden just asked.
Okay.
Hayden asked him, is consciousness necessary for suffering? Remember that the premise of this whole argument is that suffering means that it's less likely God exists.
The atheism account for
consciousness? Whoops. Sorry. Keep going.
Hold on one second. And you might want to go back a little bit because you're going to want to repeat some of this stuff. But Hayden, do you want to kind of explain why you asked that question?
Yeah. So here's the heart of it. Consciousness and suffering are intertwined. You cannot have suffering if there's no consciousness. And so if there is no consciousness, there is no suffering. And so the question really is, his prompt is, suffering means it's less likely that God exists, or it's unlikely, right? But it's actually the opposite. And so the question, well, and here's how it's the opposite. What gives a better comprehension or what gives a better explanation for consciousness? And the answer, and I think he admits it, is theism. Now, that being said, he did say something about the material world, and I think maybe I got a little lost even in the conversation. You're like, right when you're up there, your heart's beating, your blood pressure's through the roof, and you're trying to comprehend everything he's saying. But ultimately, that's what it is consciousness and suffering are intertwined. You can't have one without the other, right?
Yeah. Go ahead. And
whatever better explains it.
Oh, what are you going to say, Brad, real quick?
Oh, just like you can't watch this video without liking and subscribing and sharing it.
It's true.
Exactly. So go back a little bit so we can repeat that last question, Carden. And go ahead and play that again.
Okay, here we go.
There is no consciousness, there is no suffering. Is that right?
That's probably true, yeah.
So if atheism cannot account for consciousness, then it cannot account for
pause
suffering.
that really
Would you
quick.
agree with that?
Okay.
So he was saying, and Jacob, you may have thoughts on this. He was saying that atheism does account for consciousness. But what
No,
was he never
no.
he said that's what I was just talking about, but he never gave the argument. That's why I was
No, he didn't. Well, let's continue with the clip because he starts to concede and he recognizes, wait a minute, consciousness is not well explained by naturalism. It's not explained by his worldview. And so then what Hayden has done is he's connected consciousness and suffering together. So it's sort of like, that is the question. Why is there suffering? Because in the natural world, if we were just material in motion, material doesn't suffer. Consciousness suffers. So that's weird. So again, to an atheist, you could ask the question, why is there suffering? And Hayden, you kind of started with that question where maybe that should have been the follow-up, right? But go ahead.
Yeah, let's play it.
Okay.
Keep playing.
Keep playing the clip right here.
So if there is no consciousness, there is no suffering. Is that right?
That's probably true, yeah.
So if atheism cannot account for consciousness, then it cannot account for suffering. Would you agree with that?
So I think what we're doing here is we're sort of slightly shifting the goalposts. If you don't want to grant the existence of the material world before we start talking about this, we can do an argument from consciousness, but then we need to debate whether consciousness is explicable on atheism. What I'm going to say is this.
Sure.
What I'm going to say is this. Consciousness may seem to imply the existence of a conscious creator of the universe. We're here talking about, I suppose we're talking about Christianity, and the claim was about God.
So go ahead and
The God that
stop
you
it right
believe
there
in,
real
let's
quick.
say.
Okay.
See how he
When a-
conceded? He basically was like, well, that would be an argument. That would be a conversation about consciousness. But Hayden linked the two. He said, look, you're trying to separate consciousness from suffering. They're the same thing. And so a conversation about suffering is a conversation about consciousness. And Alex, I know Alex has said that consciousness is one of the best arguments for theism. And so he's stuck kind of in a tough place where it's like, oh crap. And I feel like he kind of, my read on this next part is that he wants to get away from this.
He's
sort of like
to the dying deer under the tree. He always says that, and he does that for all of them.
yeah,
And
he felt pinned by you and he had to move.
Existence of a conscious
Okay, so I actually missed where we were on this. I'm playing it back now. Go.
If atheism cannot account for consciousness, then it cannot account for suffering. Would you agree with that?
So I think what we're doing here is we're sort of slightly shifting the goalposts. If you don't want to grant the existence of the material world before we start talking about this, we can do an argument from consciousness, but then we need to debate whether consciousness is explicable on atheism. What I'm going to say is this.
Sure.
What I'm going to say is this. Consciousness may seem to imply the existence of a conscious creator of the universe. We're here talking about, I suppose we're talking about Christianity, and the claim was about God, but the God that you believe in, let's say. If we grant that there is a creator deity who sort of brings about the universe of conscious creatures, have you ever heard of the evil God hypothesis that Stephen Law popularized or came up with?
Tell me it.
So the idea is that, like, imagine that there's a God who brings about the world and creates the world, but does it maliciously because he wants human beings to suffer. He brings about a world in order so that human beings will suffer. Right? That seems like a plausible hypothesis.
pause it for a second, Carden.
Yep.
That sounds like a god who created Reddit.
Yeah. Right. But it's exactly what Jacob said he's doing. He is doing. He's now he's trying to get back to attacking the all good, the all powerful, the all knowing God who's allowing suffering. He's trying to pull it back to that because that's where his argument lies.
Well, But what isn't that isn't connected to the prompt.
I know.
You were attacking the prompt, and he's
That's
like,
right.
I'm losing on the prompt, so I'm going to pivot and try and go to somewhere where I feel comfortable.
And if you go, we don't have to go there right now, but he changes the prompt at 1637. There's another girl where she says, what's the prompt? And he says, if there's an all good, all knowing God, then there would be less suffering. He changes the prompt completely.
Yeah.
Okay, you want me to go to 1637 right now?
We can keep
Just-
whatever.
Yeah, keep playing the one that we're on.
Okay, cool. All right.
Let's finish this one out.
Let's finish this one out. Then we'll go to 1637.
And even if you think that consciousness points towards God, the kind of God that a lot of Christians think is a sort of necessary quality of God, which is to be all-loving, might not have to apply here.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If Christianity were true, is it plausible that suffering is necessary? for God's purpose, for
if
his
Christianity
creation?
is true, then I think it must be necessary because there'd be no other explanation.
Okay, so we're not talking about whether or not Christianity is true.
But if you're asking me if it's plausible that Christianity is true and therefore suffering is necessary, I would say probably not, because I don't think suffering should be necessary.
By the way,
could be
real quick, pause. Hayden had a brilliant move there. He goes on this whole thing that's off topic, and he just goes, "Can I ask you a question?" He's like, "I'm just gonna get back. Like, you can go on your run off into the weeds. Let me bring it right back here so I can play offense."
But I will say, but I did take the bait. I started to defend why suffering is necessary, and that's not the prompt. So
there was only about 2 other Christians who actually knew how to carry out a conversation where you're on the defense besides you 2. I was just like pulling out my hair almost the whole video, because every time Alex brought up something, it was always maybe this is an explanation, instead of Hayden, for example, saying, "Hey, by the way, can I ask you a question?"
Yes.
And put them on the defense. You were it was you and maybe 2 other people that did that.
Yep. And it was funny. I even told everyone before Alex came out, I was like, everybody remember, ask questions. When you're asking questions, you're on offense. A little apologetic, little tactical thing that everyone should understand. The one who's asking the other person the question is in the driver's seat. They're in control and command of the conversation. They're playing offense while the other person plays defense. And Alex would try, like with Hayden, to get him to talk about something where all of a sudden Hayden has to put forth theories and try and account for things. But Hayden just ignored it and just was like, "Let's go back to the prompt. Can I ask you a question?"
Now, there was actually, a lot gets left on the cutting room floor. There was actually another angle of this conversation, another camera angle, and I was able to pull it up because I'm a cool investigative journalist. Cardin, do you see that first one under where it says the memes?
Yes, I do see it.
Yeah. Of it's Alex O'Connor all bundled up.
I see what you did here. I see what you did here.
You have it pulled up again?
Yeah, I am once again asking you about animal suffering.
You got into the voice. I'm once again asking about animal suffering.
Jeez. You're
you guys,
a
I'm
savage.
really nervous. I'm really nervous. If we go hard after Alex O'Connor in this video, he is going to, if we have a conversation, he's going to be like, "So, you guys wanted to try and challenge me?
That wasn't going after
territory."
He brings it up because it's a good point, but it's just funny how he always talks about the same deer under the same log, asphyxiating in the same way.
I'm genuinely afraid of Alex O'Connor, just so you all know.
And I want to say, I think he's been incredibly nice to us, right?
Yes.
As a faith group, right? At the end of the video, when he was like very kind about how Mormonism fits into the grander scheme of Christianity, that was very kind of him to do. He has, on a couple of other podcasts, mentioned us in a very but maybe don't just dismiss them outright kind of way, which I really appreciate. So I'm with you, Jacob.
Yeah. It's a good meme. It's a good meme. He would like it. He would like it.
Hey, you gotta appreciate a good meme.
So, and I think he'd say "Oh, I concede there is humor in this meme." That's it. And we're gonna give him a list. We'll even put it on a scroll with parchment of other examples of animal suffering than strangling a dog or getting eaten under a tree. We're gonna give him the top 20 other examples he can use, right?
We should legitimately give him a gift of other examples of animal suffering he can use.
It'll just be the National Geographic book of death on the Serengeti or something, an alligator clamping its jaws on a brand new water buffalo or a freshly born water buffalo or something. So
now,
yeah.
Does this wrap up Hayden's portion, or is there more to it, Hayden?
I don't know. Is there much more? I think
over. I mean,
yeah, just go ahead and run it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna finish the clip here with Hayden's portion. We're at 12 minutes 13 seconds.
Necessary.
In an atheistic worldview, I would agree with you. It makes no sense at all. But okay, I would ask this question.
So can I ask you why then, if God exists and wants to come to know everybody and wants to love everybody and does so for the sake of human beings, why he chose to imbue the world with so much suffering that is at least seemingly completely inexplicable?
Are you a father?
No.
I'm a father. Mm-hmm. I want my son to become just like I am, better than I am, I should say. I want him to become the best that he can be. Is it possible for him to reach his potential without suffering in his life?
Perhaps not, but there's
Okay,
two.
Suffering is necessary.
There are a few things I want to say here. Firstly, that kind of moral development.
Now, I will put one pause on this and just say, you'll notice there's only one flag up right now, and you've spoken for a long time, Hayden. I give you credit. I know people will take issue maybe with the childhood leukemia bringing parents to Jesus comment a little bit later. You know what I'm saying?
I'll stand by it.
No, I got you. No, we all know where you were going. And when you're rushed and somebody has to cut it off, it's like, I was about to flesh out the idea. I totally get it. But up until now, you'll notice nobody has realized that you're a Latter-day Saint. And there's a lot of nodding when they cut away to other members of the group watching. There's a lot of nodding. There's a lot of, oh yeah. There's a lot of, oh man, he's repping us. He's bringing it to the atheists, right? And none of them are raising their red flags to get you booted out.
Jacob, for some reason. What were you doing?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Jacob
I actually would raise them a lot because I kept watching him going, oh no, like you got to get him off. I wanted the Christians to win. Like I was rooting for them. Like I wanted them to do well, but it was like my flag was going up so much. I was like, oh crap.
Yeah. So right now, if you actually look at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to make it full screen. There's this little flag icon there and it says 1 out of 20. It's kind of hard to see. It's right by the play button. But right now, there's only 1 out of 20 Christians watching has put up a flag saying like, oh, hey, I take issue with this. And it looks like the rule of the engagement was once a majority of the people in the circle of 25 had a flag up that, hey, boom, you got to get off, go to the next question. So anyway, up until now, you only had 1 flag up, which is pretty good, Hayden. So we continue.
Doesn't apply to non-human animals, as I've already said, right? That does not account for the brutal death of animals in the wild. Also, if I don't want to talk about your son because it's tragic to think about, but somebody else's son has suffered and died immediately as a result of that suffering, they don't get to develop in the same way.
I would agree that on a micro level, it's very hard to justify, and we can ask the question, why doesn't God intervene on all of these sufferings?
You might be able to justify an amount of suffering. Yeah. Right, but the fact that there's so much gratuitous suffering in the world is what I think makes God's existence unlikely. There are some instances where maybe a certain amount of suffering brings about a certain amount of good in a situation. That, by the way, would count as a justification. But when a child dies of leukemia and they're dead,
could there be a purpose to it? What if the death of the child brings their parents to God?
Then perhaps then the parents should be grateful that their child got leukemia because it's doing the will of the Lord.
Not necessarily.
That seems
Okay.
I get voted out here. So the atheists in the chat who are going to clip that and say, oh, he doesn't care about babies dying or whatever. First of all, with your worldview, with Alex's worldview, death, he's a materialist. He doesn't believe in free will. Like suffering or rather morality or what is he? He's a motivist. What's the...
An emotivist, yeah. Morally motivist.
Morally motivist. He just says the morality is just a feeling, right? So... To use an emotional, this is what I would have said if I didn't get voted out. To use an emotional appeal as an atheist is to undermine your own position. It doesn't work. The emotional appeal doesn't work in atheism because if a baby dies, hey, it's just, it's like a zebra or fowl or whatever they're called, like a baby zebra, like he was talking about. Dying doesn't matter in a atheistic worldview. Same in an atheistic worldview for a human baby. Doesn't matter. Now, my point was, in the Christian worldview, first of all, physical death in a Christian worldview, in a Latter-day Saint worldview, is actually not necessarily a bad thing. We may take it hard as humans, but he's using that emotional appeal that doesn't work for atheism, and it doesn't even work in a Christian worldview, because guess what? Maybe the death of that baby would bring about a greater purpose. Now, again, the atheists are going to cry about that, but it's like, okay, let's. How do you explain the death of the baby in your worldview? Like, I'm giving an explanation based on some presuppositions that I have, and I don't think that there's a better response, honestly, to it. The other response is, yeah, the baby died, and the parents were sad about it. Like, what is the
and he brings this up later too when he talks to me about the that like there's this amount of suffering that cannot be overcome. You see, his thing is like, yeah, there's some level of suffering that can be accepted, but then there's some other level that, like, once you go above this, like, it can't be redeemed. Like, it couldn't possibly. And that was, I'm just like, that's just so arbitrary. Yeah. Our whole thing is, as Christians, is that everything can be redeemed. That there is no tear that cannot ultimately be dried away. And so all suffering ultimately can serve towards our good. So, and there's no reason that he put forth that said that that is impossible. He may not believe it, that's fine. But there's a difference between something that says, hey, we don't have all the answers, and something that says there can't be an answer. Like, you know, I often say 2 + 2 = 5. So one would be a mystery, right? Something we don't quite understand. The other is to say 2 + 2 = 5. 2 + 2 = 5 is not a mystery. It's just wrong. There is no answer. It's just an incorrect thing. So anyway.
Also, do you guys notice at the end of the movies, wherever there's like, you know, horses or stunt animals, there's always that icon by PETA and by whatever organization supervised the use of the animals to ensure that no animals were abused during the production of this movie? As the only father that's actually had a cancer baby and the only person with leukemia in the chat, I have certified this. I've certified this example as inartful at best, but necessary at worst. So yeah, you can put that on any hate mail you get, Hayden. You can stamp that on any hate mail you get, bro. Yeah.
So, and just to push back a little bit. So,
by the way, Jonah's here, everybody. Jonah,
hi everybody.
Oh, hey, Jonah.
Welcome,
Hi,
Jonah.
Everybody. It's good to see everybody. By the way, if you're here, you better like this stream because we've got some memes to get to later, people. Plenty of memes. I've been memeing all day. I skipped church. I've been memeing all day. All right. Breaking my covenants for your memes, people. So you better like the stinking stream. Okay, but that's not what actually Alex was saying. Alex was saying that if God is omnipotent, why did he have to use suffering? Why did he have to use suffering? And Jacob, like buzzer beater, at the very end, I was sitting there like, say it! And finally at the very end, Jacob says, well, we don't believe that God can do impossible things. We believe that it is necessary to have suffering in order for growth and experience and et cetera, et cetera. And it was like, oh, yeah thank you. Because his point wasn't that suffering can have no redeeming quality. It's that it's unlikely. It's that if God is all omnipotent and omniscient and all loving, then you wouldn't see this, to which we say, he's not omnipotent. He's not omniscient.
Yeah.
I think the way that they define it.
Yes.
The way they define it. And you got to that. It was like a
don't want
buzzer
to clip that one, man.
Yeah,
like,
they're
on,
going to clip that.
Please.
Okay.
I think, I think, okay, I just want to say something on this.
Good point, Jonah, by the way.
Yeah, because I love what you're bringing up, Jonah. This was something we went over in my like intro to philosophy course at BYU. And I would just invite everyone who watches this video to read a certain talk if they want to know more about the LDS position and our strength when it comes to the problem of evil. Read Joseph Smith and the Problem of Evil by David L. Paulson. It is a fantastic talk that breaks this down super well, helps you understand exactly what's going on. It answers the questions that are being asked by Alex here, and it helps you understand how our way that we view God completely answers the problem of evil, because God did not create everything out of nothing. Therefore, he is not responsible for all of that evil, right? That's, I think, what Jonah's getting at here. That's part of the underlying aspects of Alex's argument.
And I mean, to add to that, he didn't create everything from nothing, and he doesn't have free reign. He's not unrestrained, right? That's a Protestant idea. And Alex is right to question it. If God can do this anyway, why even create Adam to eat the fruit in the first place? Why not just create these beings that are going to live in heaven or in Eden instead of going through this whole process? And they're right. It's really just makes a mess of the whole plan, really, or of the whole existence of the human race.
Yep.
I always said on my mission.
have.
Go, Luke. You go.
I do have another behind the scenes shot of Alex O'Connor. This was him doing his debate prep. is prepping for this episode. It's the most recent one, Connor. Is the most recent one, Cardin, in the Discord.
Okay. Oh, there it is. I see it.
Right, so this is Alex O'Connor posting his 95 examples of animal suffering to YouTube, 2024 colorized.
Guys, we're really close. We are really close. If we can get Alex over the animal suffering argument, it's like, I don't know, he's like, maybe we can get him.
But I'm curious what the answer is to that, because I think this is actually probably Alex's strongest point.
Oh, I agree.
And this is my initial thought on it. The human suffering suffering's always bad. That's why it's called suffering. So it's not like you emotionally will be okay with suffering, but the fact that we chose to come to Earth solves a lot of the issues with human suffering. Animal suffering's another problem, because you either have to say they're not conscious, which seems to fly in the face of everything we know about animals, or you also have to assert that they also made some sort of decision to go through mortality. And I actually kind of lean towards that interpretation.
Yeah.
In the Doctrine and Covenants, it says that everything is either spirit or matter, and we are a combination of both of it. And I think that, and like Jacob, what you always say, God takes us as far as you want to go. I think I'm not committed to this, but it makes sense to me that animals have some form of intelligence, and that God is taking them as far as those intelligences want to go. And maybe that winds them up as just a piece of grass, or maybe it winds them up as a scorpion, or maybe they turn into something like a parrot. This is all theorizing, but I think that would answer the problem of if there was some sort of free will choice of animal intelligences to go through mortality to receive some form of whatever heaven, the 3 degrees exaltation looks like for them.
So just to hit on, so you're bringing up a potential theory that could handle this problem. My point is this: I will say, I don't necessarily have a theory that I have a real like, I think yours is good. I think other people might bring out others. The bigger point is this. The meta point is this. There are potential solutions here. Yeah. It's not a knockdown thing to talk about the animal suffering and just be like, oh, this is it. Like, we found it. You can't solve this problem. This is something where you can legitimately appeal to mystery. You can say, look, I can think of 20 different possibilities, if you give me and my friends time to think about it, that could potentially solve this problem.
Bacon.
Yes.
Bacon is worth it. It's worth it, guys. Stop. Think of what you're saying. A world without bacon isn't a world I want to live in, Alex. Okay? This is dangerous thinking.
God loves us and he wants us to be happy.
I'm disappointed you didn't say bacon, Hayden.
I'm willing, by the way, Luke, you said you're not necessarily committing to that. I'm willing to commit to that. I mean, go read or listen to Cleon Skousen's The Meaning of the Atonement. That's the whole.
Yeah. That's where I got it from.
And I will say the idea that animals have spirits is throughout our scripture. I think we even have some really strong stuff to say about suffering in particular in just 2nd Nephi 2. When we talk about how there must needs be opposition in all things.
Oh, I've been working on my my response to this. So what I'm going to do is, right now we're kind of freelancing this thing. I'm going to make a video that I'm going to release tomorrow that's going to break it down into like pause, and then we go through the stuff really concisely. And there's one of them, literally, he asks the question, and I'm just going to, the next thing on the screen is going to be 2nd Nephi 2, because it just breaks it down beautifully. And I'm just like, freaking, that's your example, dude. Like, we have something here that can help with these creedal problems.
And something that I want to point out too, for Alex to know if he ends up ever watching this, is that we believe that we have we're required by God to be good stewards of the earth, that he wants us to treat animals well, that he wants us to take good care of the earth. Even to some degree, some of our scriptures seem to suggest that the earth itself has some sort of spirit. And so I think there's an awful lot of this care for the suffering of those animals. Even though we do have Jesus say that God cares more about a person than 2 sparrows, we still do care about those 2 sparrows, right? So,
well, that's to show how much he does care about the person, is that he cares about them even more than the sparrows. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, that's and by the way, from a ministerial point, anytime you're ministering to someone and actually trying to reach them, not just debate them, you want to find out what really matters to them, right? And for Alex, animal suffering, the reason he brings it up is because Alex has a very deep love of sort of animals, in the sense that he's an ethical vegan and all that kind of stuff, because I mean, which I actually have mad respect for, because he's one of those people that actually puts his money where his mouth is, literally.
He's a vegan?
If he's an atheist, why does he care about that? I mean, he would just say it's
emotivist. It's just his emotions.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So
Wow.
but he is willing to be consistent. So I would give props to Alex as a person of very high integrity too. So hats off to the guy. So anyway,
okay. Well, before we go any farther, I just want to read a couple of more super chats. And here's one small thing I noticed. Hayden, props to you, bro. I'm pulling up a picture of you on screen, and you're looking a little rounder than you are now. You know what I'm saying, dog? Look at you. Look at shredded with a hip new hairdo. You know, you even got the cool hair coming out of your deep V shirt with
Let me put a plug in here. I've lost 40 pounds doing carnivore, basically, animal products. Cut the carbs, cut the sugars.
So wait, in 1 minute, we congratulate Alex O'Connor on his veganism. And then in the next minute, we're joking about bacon and how Hayden Carroll is losing all this weight and going from being the round water boy for the JV football team to all of a sudden being like the Mormon Tony Robbins here, mixed with some, reality star. That is way too funny. That is absolutely hilarious there, my man. So, okay. We're going to continue to a couple of super chats and then go on to another clip. Kevin Nelson, Crandall Logan says, Britt, please look at the Discord hashtag self-promo post yesterday. All right, we'll try and pull that up. Andrew says, Book of Mormonon negates a lot of, I think he meant to say Book of Mormon. And he was probably doing it from an iPhone, because the autocorrect on iPhone with super chats is just a thing of reverse beauty.
Those Chinese iPhones don't want you talking about Mormons. So.
Oh, okay.
Because it means gates of hell. That's why.
Says the people who ruined the chat with their green bubbles.
I'm glad you didn't spit your water onto your fancy mic, Jonah. It was close.
That episode was hilarious, the Godmaker takedown. Sorry. It's still funny.
So Book of Mormon negates a lot of Alex's arguments against Christianity. I often said on my mission, if I weren't a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I'd probably just be an atheist, because unfortunately a lot of Christian creedal Christianity is nonsensical and illogical. My argument that my biggest, not hang up, but the thing that came to my attention most while analyzing this whole debate and the discourse afterward was, we're going to show a clip later on where a guy literally says, if you believe the Nicene Creed, this wasn't 25 Christians against one atheist. It was 23 Christians against one atheist. And he then again later on says Joseph Smith is no different than Muhammad. Yeah, except for the believing in Jesus Christ part, right? And then ends up saying, if we take the Nicene Creed seriously, you can't believe X. And both times I found it so interesting that he defends the Nicene Creed. Not Jesus Christ, not scripture, not deity, not anything. And it's like, here we are. Like literally Joseph Smith said their creeds have become an abomination because they become a false idol. Like if you're worshiping the creeds before you worship the Christ, then the creeds about the Christ themselves have actually become a false idol. And that false idol worship is going to be on full display when we get to that section of this podcast and go over some clips to the reactions some of the Christians have put out already.
And that's what I would suggest is this, just for the flow purposes, that the next thing we do is we go to what happened at the very end with me, because that's where I come out of the closet, as it were, and I expose
Clip that. Jacob came out of the closet.
And I take all these people that have been sort of on my side, and I'm like, guess what? You guys don't think I'm a Christian.
We
Go
always
to,
knew
go to that part.
Jacob was a little suspiciously masculine, right? This makes perfect sense. He's coming out of the closet. Did anybody else think and jujitsu, and I go hunting, and I got this sweet looking beard? I always thought, suspiciously too masculine, right?
It's too much. Right? It's too much, Jacob. You're compensating. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. So let me finish these super chats really fast. Britton Harmon says, I'm a little late to the show, but did anyone catch at minute 36:13 the editor put DNC 82.3 on the screen instead of Ezekiel? Yes, and it was
beautiful.
It was hilarious, and it was so comedic. That Christian guy is probably hating it because for the rest of his life, like, he's in the know enough to know that, wait, DNC, no, that's not in the Bible. Whereas the editor was probably just thinking like, oh, scriptures, quote, copy, paste, awesome, got it, perfect. Meanwhile, for the rest of his life, there's a chyron that comes up whenever people reference him.
Tell all his friends, I was on Jubilee. Show Doctrine and Covenants.
That was pure gold. I'm just going to pull up that screenshot again right now just so that everybody can see it. If you're new to the chat, this was one of our Christians, brothers and sisters in the body of Christ, indeed, but not a professed adherent to the Doctrine and Covenants, having the Doctrine and Covenants referenced as an explanation for one of his concepts that he brought up. It was really, really funny. So anyway, Britton, yes, we caught it, and it was hilarious. Thank you for the super chat. We're not requiring super chats, guys. Today it is indeed Sunday. However, if you give them to us, I guess they will be read. Make sure you're out of the time zone or something. Your ox better be in one heck of a mire. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, Benito Tito says, good job, guys. Felt well represented. I hope maybe both of you can have a conversation with Alex in the future. Hard to lay the foundations for a whole theology in a few minutes. And I believe everybody in the Zoom would agree with me. Alex O'Connor was indeed a class act, and we give absolute grace. I've been on Jubilee. Obviously Hayden and Jacob have. You get half ideas out. You're at the whims of another editor. Huge props to the director of this episode of Jubilee. Was so much more fair-minded than other ones that we've seen. We've seen some of our Christian brothers and sisters absolutely blistered in other episodes with differently motivated directors and editors. We saw that happen with me and Kwaku earlier on a different production. These guys seem pretty committed to the ethos of middle ground and didn't seem like they just wanted to make people look stupid if they believed. So we give credit where credit is due, and it looks like Jubilee gets credit for this one. And I gotta say, Alex O'Connor seems like a great interview, a class act. I would love to be his neighbor. His friend seems like a super cool guy, which we haven't gotten from previous atheists that have kind of erred on the side of just mockery and scoffery and saying you're stupid if you believe, instead of explaining why you feel that the Christian conclusion is illogical, which we appreciate because now there's actually something to talk about. You can't talk about scoffery. You can't talk about it. It's a non-starter. So
to really quick, Carton, to Alex's character, you should have seen him when he was however many drinks deep at dinner that night, and he was singing songs from the Book of Mormon musical at the table. Do you remember that? That was hilarious.
That's awesome.
that we'll include that as a bit of bonus content towards the end, talking a little bit about the dinner because that was fun.
Okay, so here's just last two super chats. Hayden was the GOAT in this video. Let's be honest, Jacob, you did okay, I guess. Ha ha, says Roy Anderson. Also, Christians looked bad. I honestly was disappointed. This is proof that they don't really know what they think they know. There was a couple I think that did well enough and probably would have enjoyed being able to flesh out their ideas a little bit more. But yeah, it was a bloodbath, and Jacob Hansen and Alex O'Connor were holding a bloody axe at the end of this thing. It was bad.
So it was funny actually to watch, and there are going to be more reactions to this video by Christians. I want everyone to compare the vibe in their post-mortem versus ours, where we're laughing, talking about good arguments, they are like, well, he didn't exactly consider the theory of Theophilus of Antioch and they're like super somber, like they just know we got destroyed.
I just gotta say,
Alex is our friend, and we bannered with him, and the Restored Gospel has some great stuff in this.
I can't believe that these jokers mock our doctrine. I was watching this today, shouting at the screen. I can't believe these morons who are they're just getting sliced and diced. Alex O'Connor is barely awake. The dude was half asleep, and he was just tying them in knots, and they're just like panic trying to get a word in, and he's just like, blah, 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 blah. And then they turn around and they laugh at the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. The gall of these people. It's unreal that they mock us. And then Hayden Carroll, because Hayden was the only person who spoke slower than Alex O'Connor. Everybody else got up and they were going, blah, 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 and Alex is just calmly dismantling them. Hayden gets up and asks a few questions, and all of a sudden you see Alex like, all of a sudden he has to wake up, and he's actually trying to answer back at it. I can't believe these people have the audacity to mock our religion. They all look like absolute.
If you look on your screens right now, there was a guy who straight up gasped and covered his face when the prompt was read of Jacob Hansen that Mormonism provides a conception of God that is more rationally defensible than any other Christian sect. Like, there was an utter gasp in the room. So, dude, that was...
So
I don't want to be polemic, but it was a thing of beauty, bro.
I will say, so this was the moment in this that was the biggest moment, was the moment when Alex turned and called on me. Actually, let's replay that moment real quick, if you could, Carden.
Okay.
And that would be that in that moment, it was like Hayden did a good job. I felt like in my part where I talked about the resurrection, or not the resurrection, I'm sorry, Jesus claiming to be God, I felt like it went well. Like I was satisfied. I was like, hey, we did a good job, man. Like, I'm happy with this. Everyone else got destroyed, but we did a pretty good job. We pressed him.
Look, guys, I do think that there were some Christians that had some reasonable points. There was like 2 or 3, and especially when it came to like biblical, historical stuff, they had some reasonable points to make.
And fair enough. Regardless, I felt we did well. And then I got to this point at the end that it was like, okay, great. Someone else going to do it. I'm going to shake his hand, and on we go. And this has been a really cool experience. But it was like, there was so much more that was about to happen on multiple levels. But it all started with when he called me. So if you go to that part.
Okay, here it is.
This was kind of awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so here we go.
I wish we could.
It says Alex will now choose a Christian to debate for 10 minutes.
Also very knowledgeable, very enthusiastic, and philosophically minded as well. Why don't we bring you back?
I was like, okay, pause.
Okay.
Now we had to write one thing that we wanted to defend. They brought us all in. We're all in there. They're like, okay, and at the end he's going to ask. So all of you guys need to write down something that you're going to defend. Like some claim that you'll make that you're willing to have him go after. And I was like, I literally, like, this prompt sort of came to me, and I was like, should I do it? And I was like, I probably won't get chosen anyway. Why not go big? So I wrote that down, that prompt. When he called me, as I was walking up, I was literally going, there are 25 people here. They don't realize I'm a Latter-day Saint. I was walking up there, and I remember thinking to myself, this is when else will I get to make a claim about my faith in front of 10 million people, literally? And what am I going to do? Am I going to do this? Am I going to throw down the gauntlet in front of the whole friggin' world? And I was like, screw it, let's do it. And I sat down, hit it, and we'll go to the next part as I sit down.
Okay, so one more time, we're going to hear him just say how you're philosophically minded. And the whole 9 yards. Here we go.
It just seems very knowledgeable, very enthusiastic, and philosophically minded as well. Why don't we bring you back?
So, my claim, which might bother some people in this circle, and this is why I thought maybe we could find a little bit of middle ground here.
Like it.
because I represent a form of Christianity that a lot of people don't even consider as Christian. I'm a Latter-day Saint, also known as a Mormon.
Awesome.
And my claim is
Look at their
that
faces.
the restored gospel, also known as Mormonism, provides a conception of God that is more rationally defensible than any other creedal Christian sect.
Okay. Oh, tell me why. I must admit,
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
They edited out. Hayden, you can attest to this. There was literally like a
Audible.
It was like a no, like he like here's like grunting and like stupid guy. And I was like, holy cow! I just said it. And then Alex is just super gracious, like, oh well, I don't really know much about Mormonism.
Delicious. It was
hey.
delicious.
And honestly, that was the best prompt because he would have been ready for any other prompt from any of them. He would have heard it before. This is a prompt he never heard, and he admits that. And so I think it made for the best conversation.
And it also kind of threw me off because I was thinking, okay, and I should have played it better. Looking back on it, what I should have done is say I should have pushed Alex. No, Alex. As he responded, I should have done this. So she said, Alex, hold on, I want to go back to the prompt. I don't want you to question my issues with the problem of evil. It's like you have to present why some other Christian sect better accounts for this, right? Just because you don't like it or you don't find it sufficient, that's fine. That's not the prompt. The prompt is to refute it, you have to provide some other Christian conception that better accounts for things like the problem of evil. So, but looking back on it, it's kind of like, that's kind of hard position to put him in.
He baited you and me and everyone into that. That's the animal suffering. I mean, he just kept going back to it, and we felt.
Yeah, and I think overall, like my read on it was that I felt like it was a back and forth. I felt like and when I analyzed it a little closer, I actually think I did pretty well. The one point, and I will admit this, the one point that he was able to land a hard punch on was the animal suffering one.
And you know what's funny? Did you time the entire thing? Did they put the entire 10 minutes? Because when I was sitting there live in the room with you, I felt like you were talking about animal suffering for way too long. I'm like, you got to get out of this. Like, we've already talked about this.
Yeah.
So I think they may have edited some of it out because when I watched it back, I'm like, it didn't seem like as long as when I was sitting in the seat.
Well, he hit me on it. And I'll be fully honest, like anyone who saw that, I don't have like a great theory off the top of my head that accounts for that.
We already talked about it.
I know you guys have some, and I'm open to different theories on it, right? It's one of those areas that I don't know, but the point that I think I did make is that this is something that you can say, okay, I don't have an answer to, but it's not a defeater. It doesn't mean that there is no answer, right? And so it doesn't have to be.
No, but I figured it out, dude. This is how we get Alex O'Connor to be Mormon. It's obvious that his
point.
It's obvious that his veganism,
point, Luke.
His veganism is informing his love for animals and the animal suffering. If we take him to just a really, really good sandwich shop here in LA, he probably doesn't have them in England. Like fish and chips, it gets old. If we can just take him to a really good Mexican restaurant, all right, get him some sweet
good steak in him, and he just looks at you and he's like,
just a tear comes to his
Brother
eye.
Hansen.
A tear comes to his eye, and he realizes
that's why Englishmen are all atheists, because they have to suffer through this horrible food their entire lives.
Beans on toast is the reason. No,
like you know how there's a fallacious appeal to authority.
Those people know suffering.
Okay,
there's a
Before
fallacious
we go too
appeal
far with the English, I do want to say something cool from in the chat, guys. Check this out.
Okay.
So, one of the Christians that I thought did well is in the chat right now. Randall Deeb. He actually.
Randall.
Yeah,
Randall.
Is he the glasses guy that did pretty well, or is he the guy with dreads?
Here. Let me read what he said. He said, I agree. I'm not Mormon, but most of the Christians did poorly. And I've been telling my friends since we filmed that the two Mormons did the best. Jacob and Hayden also had the most Christ-like spirit. And then he said, I had a wonderful conversation with them afterwards.
Oh, crap. Hold on. I gotta feel bad. Randall, we did have a great conversation. And I'm glad that you think that I exuded the spirit. But you have not met Brad Whitbeck yet. So you need to meet Brad Whitbeck. And then you'll be like, okay, I found the person who has the Spirit of the Lord with him.
No, I'm just Canadian,
no,
bro.
Randall. By the way, Randall did come up. He was definitely on my list of the people that definitely did better.
Let's get him on the show. Randall, you're invited on the show.
Yeah, Randall. Actually, he was talking to me about doing that. So yeah, let's get Randall on. We can all talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Go to Ward Radio right now. Email us. We'll send you the Zoom link, bro. Freaking jump in, baby. I don't know. That'd be a lot.
In the meantime,
let's
all throw a W in the chat to welcome Randall into the Ward Radio wigwam.
Yeah.
W in the chat. W.
W in the
Randall,
chat.
you can't get away. Been on other podcasts in the world out there, and let me tell you, once you discover Ward Radio and like hang out with the boys, you'll realize this is a lot more fun than
Randall. We already got your name. Even if you die, we can still baptize you.
Oh my God!
Just saying.
That's not how it works.
That's exactly
in case
how
anyone thinks that's not how it works.
Good job for completely propagating the polemic stereotype.
We even baptize deers that die starving under logs. That's how committed we are.
That's what we got to do. Animal baptisms for the dead.
Yeah.
Alex is in.
It's solved.
Animal baptisms for the dead.
This is horrible. Okay,
You guys.
so
Yeah.
we're the key to Alex O'Connor's heart and overcoming his desire to save the animals is to just introduce him to really good American fusion cuisine that he may have been missing out on in England. Okay, so I think that's a good idea. Second good idea is let me burn through another 5 super chats, and then we're going to go back to these comments, all right? Roy Anderson continues and says, you were the GOAT. Cassidy Hayden. Cassidy Davis says,
that's a former coworker of mine, a friend of mine. So anyway.
I don't care.
That's why he's back.
Way to go. No, I'm just totally kidding. Totally kidding. By the way, are you vaping? Oh, you're not vaping. Oh, it's a...
No. By the way, speaking of that, did you notice I ate an entire steak in the first 20 minutes of our...
Yes, there were a couple of times I had to get away because you were chewing on my live stream. Thank you.
Sorry.
So anyway, Cassidy Davis says, way to go, Jacob and Hayden. Cardin, we need the Alex quote, Mormonism, of course, T-shirts. Jacob, what was on the paper you slipped to Alex?
Okay, so that was
world wants to know.
That does. So I actually wrote a little letter to Alex that just kind of said, hey, like if you ever want to, I didn't know if I was going to get a chance to really talk with Alex, literally, except for the time when I was sitting at that table. And that was very much a possibility. It may have been like we end, he leaves, and then it's sort of like, all right, you guys can all go home now. And it was sort of like, if I have a chance to actually talk to the guy, I thought about like, maybe I'll send him an email or something, be like, hey, maybe we could talk more sometime. I'm a really big fan, blah, 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 if you want to talk to a Mormon. So I had a little letter that basically said that. And my thought was, here, I'll just give it to him because then he'll for sure read it, right? If I just send him an email or whatever, message him on whatever, he probably won't respond. So I wanted to do that because I did want him to know, like, hey, if you were interested in what we had talked about today, like, here's my info, here's my card, as it were.
Yep, there it is right there. You can see it on your screen. He hands it to him, and Alex accepts it, does not look at it in disgust. And I have to point out, bro, you guys are twinners. You're both in brown shoes and charcoal gray or black slacks with a blue coat and no tie with a like you literally look like a father and son going to church together on like Father's Day because their wives made them dress up looking like they matched. You know what I'm saying? You are literally just twinners with Alex O'Connor. That was so apt. You literally, I think, have the exact same shoes. I think you are both wearing the exact same shoes. So anyway, you give him the piece of paper, and there it is. Shake his hand, walk away. Awesome. Last 3 super chats. Paulie Nike says, I don't know if Jacob intended only becoming a red flag meme, but it is sheer internet gold. I wish that they showed more of Jacob's arguments. It looks like they showed all of his arguments, Paulie Nikes. They may have been edited for time, but it looks like he got every one of his arguments in. And Jay says, child of God versus creature solves animal suffering and revelation that they are for our use. Canuto de Leon says, great job, Jacob and Ward Radio. And Ed 2276 LDS says, God created the earth, humans, animals in the condition that Alex expects of a good God. It was only after the fall that suffering entered the world as a result of man's disobedience, not God's will. Clay Boog says, I was screaming to Nephi 2.
get too far past that. I think that's a huge point that I think this goes back to how I think 2nd Nephi 2 is like really at the core of the answer to Alex's main question there. The things he was talking about, like, hey, why didn't God create animals in a way that they could coexist peacefully? That's Eden. God did. It was a consequence of the fall that all of these other problems came in, right? And so there's that layer to be explored. I think we should definitely do an episode where we focus on animal suffering and the problem of evil.
Yeah. And Alex would say to that, I think Alex would say to that, why couldn't he have just kept Eden forever?
Yes.
And and Lehi and Brad Whitbeck and the Restored Gospel would reply, and they'd say, because God is not unrestrained. God has eternal laws he has to abide by, and you can't grow and gain experience without suffering and action and et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why it's a slam dunk on the
omnipotent.
Protestants, because they can't say that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got over 1,000 people watching just on one platform, probably a couple of thousand on others. We're going to jump right into the last section. We're skipping right to the end where Alex got to choose a champion from amongst the Christians to debate one of their theses against him. So we're just going to cut straight to that section. He ended up choosing Jacob Hansen, and let's see what he has to say.
This chap over here just seems also very knowledgeable, very enthusiastic and philosophically minded as well. Why don't we bring you back?
So, my claim, which might bother some people in this circle, and this is why I thought maybe we could find a little bit of middle ground here.
Like it.
Because I represent a form of Christianity that a lot of people don't even consider as Christian. I'm a Latter-day Saint, also known as a Mormon.
Awesome.
And my claim is that the restored gospel, also known as Mormonism, provides a conception of God that is more rationally defensible than any other creedal Christian sect.
Okay. Oh, tell me why. I must admit, I don't know very much about Mormon theology. I know you also don't like being called Mormons, right? So I don't quite know what term to use.
We generally are known
Latter-day Saints.
Latter-day Saints, the church, a member of the
LDS
Church of
theology,
Jesus Christ.
let's say.
Yes. Our theological claims, for example, the problem of evil. Okay, so the way that we address it. So the problem really, so far as I can tell, that you have isn't so much with suffering, right? Because suffering could be something that is justifiable, right?
Yeah, in principle. It's sort of the amount of suffering, the depth of suffering.
Absolutely. So the issue really is injustice. It's
not injustice. It's suffering in particular.
Okay, stop right there.
Okay.
He wouldn't concede this, and this is where I was bothered that he wouldn't concede this point. Suffering is not inherently bad. We all know that. I use the analogy later, and it's a great analogy of a dog getting a shot. If it needed the medicine, then you're justified. That suffering actually produces a greater good. If it's not, if you just stuck a dog for no reason with a needle, that is unjustified suffering. So the problem isn't the suffering. The problem is when that suffering is what he calls gratuitous or unjustified. And so the issue with our world isn't that they're suffering. The problem with our world is that our world is unfair. And I cannot emphasize this enough. Once this was my breakthrough in this whole discussion in my own mind. Once I understood that the problem is not the suffering itself, but the fact that it's not fair, then you realize we talk about the problem of evil as the problem of suffering when it's really the problem of injustice.
Yeah.
That's the proper way to understand it.
Well put.
Before we continue, you paused at a perfect moment, Jacob. Look at this guy's face when it gets out that you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. And not just his face. While you talk, I took screenshots of the reactions of all the Christians around. And not a single one was happy about it. Like not a single one. There was a couple that were politely neutral. That the young woman in the yellow shirt, and the one kind of hippie pastor guy was kind of like, okay, cool, you know what I'm saying. But there was a lot of scowls, dog. Like
look at that
lot
face.
Of
this
scowls,
dude is not
dude.
having it. They're not having it.
Yeah, like I'm just gonna put these back up on the screen. Like this guy looked back down and around at the others. He's like, "Are you guys seeing what's happening here?"
And the blonde lady,
dude,
she was flipping out. She was flipping out.
She wanted nothing to do with
I don't know if everyone else's was like necessarily judgment or like worry or whatever, but hers definitely seemed like it.
Yeah, dude. That right there is like, if she were in HR, she would have fired you for being Mormon. Like it's just like that. That's the face of.
She probably is in HR, and she probably has fired people.
Oh
for being
no!
Mormon.
I wonder if that's just her face, though, guys.
I
maybe
think we can draw
some
that
people just
conclusion
look
here
that
on
way.
the internet tonight. I think we can safely say,
like this is the woman that was the female judge in the 1840s that was like, the Mormon extermination order. Kind of deserve it, you know.
Yeah, let's do that.
Like, that makes sense. They're not, people, but
real people.
So anyway, the here we go. Let's keep playing the clip because this was absolute sheer gold. Jacob Hansen, go.
Okay, and fair enough. So with the concept of injustice, the Latter-day Saint conception of God is that God actually, his purpose is to make us become as he is.
Yes, does that include animals as well?
Animals are part of the created order that will be redeemed along with the rest of the created order.
Okay, so what does suffering do for them?
Suffering is part of the inherent nature of the world as a fallen world, okay?
Even for animals?
Yes, even for animals.
Whose fault is that?
Let me break
Sorry,
it down.
I'm throwing
this
a lot
way.
of questions.
Yeah, let me break it down like this.
Sure.
So if I have a child and I want my child to grow up to become like me, my child needs to go out of my house.
Yep.
He needs to go into the lone and dreary world. And if that is the case, that means that there's going to be some level of separation between me and him. He's in the world of injustice. It's a world that is unfair.
Why is that world unjust and unfair? Because I understand what you're saying. In this analogy, you want your child to become like you. And what that's going to involve is encountering suffering, developing as a person, getting thicker skin. But the only reason that you want that for your child is because they're going to live in a world where they're going to have to encounter that, and you want them to be better at dealing with that, right? If you were given the opportunity to give your child a life that was separate from you, where they went about and did their business, but there wasn't that kind of suffering, and you chose the one in which there was suffering just for the sake of it, I think that would be problematic.
Well, it's not.
I just have to say,
can we pause for a second?
Yeah,
Does
sure.
anybody realize how fast Alex is talking?
Oh,
Do you see this? The whole time he's been sitting back like, well, but what about? And now all of a sudden he's like, this is what he did with Hayden. All of a sudden a switch flips and he like sits forward. He's like, okay, well, and he starts like, he has to wake up. He has to actually engage. The rest of these things was like one hand tied behind his back until the Mormons get up, and then he's like, okay, well, hang on. I thought it was amazing.
I actually had to take it off of 2x double speed.
Right.
And I could only watch it at 1.25.
And this to me just like speaks to his character for choosing the person he thought would probably give him the biggest challenge. Like that's really cool.
Consider that Matt Dillahunty was too chicken to debate Jacob Hansen. He hung up because he was scared. He tucked his little tail between his little legs and he scurried off under a log and it fell on him and he died and he was eaten by the
Matt is a joke.
It's
He
a
is the
violent
exact
world out
opposite
there.
of an
It's a
Alex
fallen
O'Connor.
world, okay? And deers get eaten. That just
By the way,
happens, okay?
I want to take a quick pause. I made an error, and this Blake Westmoreland, he sent a super chat in, and he hit it on the head.
Yes.
I ended up pursuing the problem of evil. My prompt, I kind of had this prompt ready, but I wasn't really that prepared for it. And if at the beginning it seems like I'm a little stumbly, it's because I was like, crap, I got to figure out what to do with this. And what I should have done is I should have gone down the route of the Trinity, because that one would have been the easiest. The problem of evil is a real challenge. So in a certain way, I kind of took the harder route. You're going up and talking about the problem of evil with Alex O'Connor. Like, crap, that wasn't the right route to take if I wanted to take the kind of easy route to prove my prompt. But this is where I think what happened in this. I think Alex did a good job on the animal suffering thing. But I will say this. He kind of gave up on the human side of it. He sort of conceded that like my analogies worked and that the God, like I say that, and I kind of felt like we came out neutral. Like, I think I actually won on the human suffering. And with the animal suffering, I just didn't really have a great theory, though I think I did successfully show that it's not like you can't overcome this. Like, it isn't like this is something that can't be in some way accounted for through some theory that we just don't understand right now.
Yeah.
I do have to give Alex points, because I've thought this exact same thing. When you talk about, well, suffering helps us become better people and better able to handle the world. Well, what's the point of that if the world didn't have to be that way in the first place? Because every now and then, sometimes in church, people will say, like, I went through this super hard thing and I couldn't understand why. And I was asking God why over and over and over. But then 5 years later, somebody else went through the same experience and I was able to help them. And I understood why it was that I went through that then. And I don't know if you guys do this, but sometimes I go, well, why couldn't just both of you not have gone through that experience? Like, that also seems to solve the problem. And so I think it was smart of Alex to bring that up. But once you realize that God is not the one who creates all this evil to like run us through, he didn't make a ropes course and say, all right, get through that thing and then you can go to the celestial kingdom. He's saying, all right, I'm looking out from the future at the way reality is, and I have all these children and I want to navigate them through that. And so I have in my God's perfection and his all-powerfulness is in his ability to chart a course through that reality and a path for the rest of us to follow. It isn't that he made this obstacle course for us to get through just because.
Well, and I would say
what's already there.
This is an important point. The way I conceptualize it, and I say this in the thing, imagine that you have to get from point A to point B, but the only way to get to point A to point B is to go through the realm of injustice. This middle realm of injustice that you have to pass through to get to that other place. In that window, anything can happen. Like anything.
Do you know what the perfect analogy for this is?
What is it?
No.
Middle school.
No. Close. Working out. Like, everything about this, it requires suffering. You have to break down your muscles in order to build them up, right? Like, all of the discussion around this makes me think like, okay, well, why didn't God make it so I could be buff without having to work out, right? The answer is because that's how your muscles work. That's how the material reality works. And God, having organized our world, is working within the material parameters that we have, right? It's because that suffering is necessary in order for the growth, both spiritually and physically, that we want to go through, right?
Now, ultimately, the argument has to be that there is no such thing as gratuitous suffering. In other words, there is no suffering that ultimately is unnecessary. The problem, and I think Hayden, you kind of had alluded to this, on the micro level, like, why did my, like, for example, let's say my kid gets hit by a car tomorrow and dies. Horrible, horrible thing, like the worst possible thing I could imagine happening tomorrow. Why did that have to happen? I'd say it didn't have to happen. But you know, it did have to happen. I had to come to a world where that sort of thing could happen. Because unless you go and experience real chaos, unless you've actually gone through the realm of injustice where that can happen, there's no way that you'll get to point B. And I think that's what 2 Nephi 2 talks about. It says that without passing through the realm where opposition and all sorts of things can happen, you just can't get it. And so that means that on the micro level, no, my daughter did not have to get hit by a car. But on the macro level, I did have to go through a realm where that was possible.
Cue the Jordan Peterson chaos in order soapbox. Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's it.
Exactly.
And actually, many believers struggle with this. Okay. Sorry, I'm talking to all the smart people here for just one. Yeah. Many believers struggle with this, right? Is that they see something bad that happens. So many members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or our Christian brothers and sisters will have this idea that God is just micromanaging everything, and that his finger is in every pie, that he helps you find your keys and he helped that light turn green and all these things. And sometimes that can be a very dangerous belief, because that leads to, well, some people are born in America in the 1990s and their lives are fantastic. And some people are born in Bangladesh in 700 AD and they're butchered by, brigands or whatever. Like, there are some people who just kind of have it better. And if you think that God is engineering everything like this psycho puppet master, you can get into I think, very rational doubts about,
and
doesn't this seem a little unfair?
And if you have that sort of idea that God micromanages everything, Alex O'Connor will be the person that comes and absolutely destroys your faith, because that form of belief does not hold. So one of the reasons I appreciate people like Alex O'Connor is they end up as like a proving grounds for these beliefs. It's like, all right, let's go in front. Hey, Christians, let's all go up in front of the best atheist out here. And let's see who's standing at the end of this. Because I'll tell you, when you run it through the fire, we'll see what stands up. And you end up and so the reason I want to get Christians away from these certain ideas is because I don't want them one day to meet an Alex O'Connor and then become an atheist.
Creeds create atheists.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
Now, I'm just going to go over a couple of super chats here really fast and catch us up. Exploring Reality says, as a creedal Christian, I liked you guys.
That's the guy with the glasses.
Oh, cool. I thought he did pretty well holding his own. Enough, like, unfortunately, their part of the production got so lost in the weeds of technical references. Like Alex was referencing technical theories that he hadn't heard of. He was referencing theological theories that Alex hadn't heard of. And by the time they had tried to explain each other the theories that they were referencing to each other, 5 minutes had gone by, and nobody that didn't have a PhD at a divinity school knew what the heck was going on. So we were not preaching to the plowboy on this side, and we were past a high school education or the 5th grade reading level that the New York Times is designed for over here. And so he did optically an effective job, I believe, of showing you're not stupid if you believe, which is kind of the Matt Dillahunty, that is kind of the Richard Dawkins, that is kind of the come on, who's the other insufferable guy that just looks
Sam
like
Harris?
Christopher Hitchens?
No, the guy that looks like, when a school shooter grows up, Christopher Hitchens. Yeah, exactly.
Humanoid Eeyore?
I actually like Christopher Hitchens because he's really funny and entertaining.
He doesn't look
He is
like the
very
depressed,
entertaining.
angry guy at the end of the bar.
Oh, I didn't
Like,
realize you were
kind
just attacking his
No,
looks.
he's
That
a-
makes it better. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He's the guy. He's the guy that the author A.A. Milne based the character Eeyore off of.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we all know who we're talking about. Yeah, Matt Dillahunty just looks like the angry, smartest biker in the biker gang. And so he's taking out, his childhood trauma on the Christians because they're simple targets that turn the other cheek instead of fighting back.
We're witnessing a villain origin story. You know that, like, Alex O'Connor, when he was little, had a pet hamster, and his Catholic cousin was supposed to feed it while he was on vacation and didn't, and he came home to a dead hamster, and so he blames the creeds for the suffering of animals or something. The guy wouldn't let it go. Just suffering of animals the whole time.
Or maybe it's just a good example.
Well, I understand that we're trying to have a philosophical thing, but look, an outsider coming into this is like, wait a minute. You guys went from how could millions and millions of Jews die in the Holocaust? How could God let that happen? To like, how come my goldfish died? There's no God. Like, I'm just saying the animal suffering thing seems a little bit of a retreat on part of the atheists. They used to be a little more,
or a refinement of their argument.
I think it was to simplify, avoiding talking about what counts as innocent and what doesn't. Right. I think there were reasons he was going for it, and it makes sense to me.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So, really fast.
And, Jonah, I just texted you something. So, by the way,
is it more pictures? Shirtless pictures?
Oh my gosh, Jonah!
You can find Brad.
I think we might have missed one, Jonah or Carden. Clay Boog said, "I was screaming 2 Nephi 2 when Jacob came up."
Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
I'm right there with you.
Right before you interrupted me to bring up the point of Ed 2276, I had actually read that one, but we then skipped back over it, so he deserves the attention that you have given him, Brad. And I'll give you your website back just for that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was on GoDaddy and I realized I still own your .com. So
you're right.
So anyway, Brittany the Shadow is actually back in the studio. She had to run out for a quick responsibility, but she's the keepress of the chats that's going to be keeping us caught up with all of the chats. I will read the last one, babe, and then you can do the rest. So Sacred Seal, thanks for dropping us $5. Hopefully it's not Sunday where you are. for those of you that just joined us, because we have 4 figures watching us right now. We usually love reading super chats on this live stream, but Sunday, so we're trying to keep the Sabbath day holy. We're talking some theology. You don't have to actually send us a super chat. But hey, if it's Monday where you're at, fine, go for it. So anyway, by the way, what a pathetic Pharisee and Sadducee thing. Didn't you guys go to BYU and go to the Denny's where like at midnight on Sunday night?
Yes.
Like there was like 40 kids that would go in to Denny's on Sunday night.
Ready, set, all right, go. And
Yeah, no, it's Monday, but it's Monday. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is the most Pharisaical garbage I've ever seen in my life. So anyway, Sacred Seal says, to be able to define something, there must be definition. Also, an atheist who fears AI fears himself. Oh, that's an interesting one. And Braden Weiss says they mock us because they think we're some kind of polygamy cult. Actually, I think the mockery is derived from ignorance and an inability to contextualize what we are, especially in North America and in Britain, in the English-speaking world at least. People are only familiar really with 2 sects of Christianity. The highly esoteric and traditional Catholic Church, which has unfortunately, since the 70s and 80s, been mired in scandal. Okay, I think its public image is recuperating, at least here in Los Angeles. But in living memory, there's been a lot of scandal surrounding the Catholic Church. Also, it has a long history of political domination that some brain-rotted people can't distinguish historical Catholicism from political Catholicism. And then the other sect that they're used to is, at least in North America, is kind of evangelical Protestantism, non-denominational Protestantism, which is very zealous, very evangelical, for lack of a better term, but also like wildly anti-Mormon. Some people would say kind of judgy. It was like the whole basis of the meme, The Christian Right. And they kind of have a Westboro Baptist bad taste in their mouth as they think about it. So since people don't know how to contextualize us as neither Catholics nor Protestants, they want to fit us into one of those boxes that already exist in their brains. Yet they don't realize, as Don Bradley says, we have Catholic richness with Protestant sensibility. Ooh. And we're like, I've said this before, we're like the libertarians of the religious world. We are neither Republican nor Democrat. And in a binary where it's Catholic or Protestant, you don't know how to think of Mormons, just like in a binary where there's Republicans and Democrats, you don't know how to think of libertarians until you meet them and you speak with them and you actually engage with them, which is what Jacob Hansen has been suggesting we do a little bit more of in the wake of Wes Huff drastically misrepresenting us. And hopefully this exploring reality guy does not do it. We don't care if you believe the same thing we do, exploring reality, my man. We just care that you don't misrepresent us. And so, if you don't want to do that and you want to have a fun convo, you are invited on the show. Babe, can you catch us up on the rest of the super chats?
Possibly. The first one I see is Minor Prophet Ian Malcolm. Is that right?
No, actually, I'll catch us up and then all the new ones.
I got us with Sacred Seal, Braden Weiss.
Yes, hit it up.
And
thank you.
Once we get to Minor Prophet, I'll hand it off to you, Brittany.
Cool.
Okie dokie.
Okay, so right off the bat, we got Sacred Seal. Says to be able to define something, there must be definition. Also, an atheist who fears AI fears himself.
Oh, I did read that one. Okay, next one, Braden Weiss.
Okay, Braden Weiss. They mock us because they think we're some kind of...
crap, I read that one too. So Joshua Martin, now we're caught up. Yes, now we're caught up. Yes.
Okay, Ed2276 LDS, God couldn't force the conditions to exist because he grants agency to man. It's against God's nature to compel man to obey. I think that's another really important thing to be bringing up. I think people will occasionally be like, wow, God's so weak, he can't even do this thing. It's like, guys, he's enabling agency. If he is interposing his will all over the place, it's going to cause some problems for that agency, right? I think that's an answer to a lot of questions there. Blake Westmoreland, Jacob mentioned this one. I'll read it specifically. He says, Jacob, why didn't you talk about the Trinity, though? You let him lure you back into the problem of evil, which Jacob was talking about earlier. Sacred Seal, Joseph F. Smith, This is an awesome Joseph F. Smith quote, by the way. He says, "Animals do have spirits, and they were not created to be destroyed, but to fulfill the measure of their creation and to have joy therein." And many more quotes. There's actually, weirdly enough, there's a Mormoner article about animal spirits that has a bunch of those quotes.
I'm going to look it up while you're talking.
Sorry, I just got back. I had to go check on my kids real quick. So, yes, that's the thing. I feel like I need to go and do some more research. I really do think there are probably some really good stuff on animals in general and the way that we view them in the church. I know, for example, I remember, I think this is correct. I remember learning that, like, in Catholicism, animals, I don't think animals have souls in Catholicism. So like animals don't go to heaven. Like in Catholicism, like your dog that you love, like you'll never see it again.
Well, that sucks. I got a Great Dane. He's pretty awesome.
Oof. Yeah. And Latter-day Saints actually believe, we are actually believers that because animals have spirits, that the animals that you love.
Yeah, we better double check that before we say Catholics don't let dogs into
so
heaven.
Double check it. I need. Where's that?
Who's
the guy on? Who's the guy on?
You know what else? You know what else? Presbyterians torture puppies.
Jamie, look that up.
yeah, I was going to say, that's a pretty bold claim that we better fact check ourselves on before we let that hit the airwaves, you know?
And then final one, there's a question, and then passing it back to Brittany. Polynikes 2000 said, question for Jacob. Given Alex's atheistic worldviews, why not ask him about either Nietzsche's fallibility or creation ex nihilo Big Bang Theory?
Yeah, I think that those are good ones to bring up. I'm not as familiar with the Nietzsche one. I'm not sure what he's referring to with that, but the creation ex nihilo, I actually, you guys, I fully admit it. I kind of dropped the ball on this. I think I held my own, but I walked into like a really hard subject. The problem of evil is the hardest thing in all of theism for us to deal with. And I went, and Alex is known for his animal suffering, challenge to within the problem of evil.
Yeah.
Am I dumb? Why the heck did I just walk into that like an idiot, totally unprepared?
Well, I think everybody that meets you and talks to you definitely does think dumb when they meet you.
That's what,
is dumb.
Carmen said it.
I can introduce you to quite a few.
And ugly. And ugly.
Dude,
no, just kidding.
It is so hard to avoid traps like that in a debate setting, especially when it was something that was already discussed earlier, right?
But Hayden didn't. Hayden in his thing knew exactly what to do. He said, that's interesting. Can I ask you a question?
Hayden was great. Hayden was great.
He turned it
right around.
I think part of this is because there's the natural reaction to like go through a summary of the things you've already been through, right? And in that episode itself. So I see where you were coming from, and but
Brad,
next time.
He was able to control the conversation because you were giving the prompt and he was supposed to attack it. So he kind of had control.
Yeah, and that so it was funny. One of the things about this format, I actually really liked it. And here's why. The person who goes in, you have the prompts, the claims you're going to make. Now, Alex had all his time beforehand to prepare. That's one thing people don't realize. Alex didn't come into that like having to make up his answers on the spot. He was fully prepared for that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. On the other hand, like when you get thrown into this, you have to ask him the questions. The advantage is you're on offense. His advantage is that he had all the time in the world to prepare to defend his positions. Now I got put into a position where I didn't have time to prepare to defend my position, and I had to defend it. So it was kind of a tricky thing. But like I said, I think I won on human suffering, and on animal suffering, I just kind of punted. It was like, I don't know.
Well, fortunately,
you punted a cat.
Yeah,
Jacob.
Mormoner has indeed written the article Teachings on Animal Spirits. 31 primary sources are referenced. Everything from do animals have spirits? So when animals die, are they waiting in the spirit world? Does that mean they'll be resurrected? Does it mean I get to be with my pets in the millennium? Should you feel bad for eating something with a spirit? All of these questions have indeed been answered in their entirety on Mormoner.com. I'm going to see if I can't remember to put a link to this article in the description, as you guys can see on your screens. If you're just tuning in right now.
Mormoner.org.
It's Mormoner.org.
Yeah.
Yes. It's MORMONR, Mormoner.org. So you guys can check it out there. I'll do my best to remember to put it in the description afterwards. Brittany, can you read us another 3 super chats before we continue?
Possibly. I gotta scroll up.
Oh,
Now we're at 1,200.
Man, we have too many super chats.
We've got
I
over
got it.
1,000 people watching. We've got over 400 likes. So we've crossed the meme threshold. We are at 88 memes per hour. Okay, so
okay, we can
whatever,
read a
whenever
couple
you
of
wanna do it,
memes.
Carden,
Let's
we
do
can
a couple
jump
of
into them.
memes right now,
Let's
really
jump
fast.
into the memes, all
Couple
right? Just for
memes,
I
your
just
okay.
got to the
Oh, I'm
chat.
sorry,
I'm
I'm
gonna
sorry.
have to scroll again.
Oh, you got to the chats? Okay, fine. Catch us up on the chats, babe. Catch us up on the chats.
Okay, Minor Prophet Ian Malcolm. We believe in cosmic pre-Earth informed consent.
Okay. That's one way of putting
He's
it.
right.
Okay.
That is a great way to put it.
Silent says Randall Deeb should give us his favorite scripture so we can read it from the Pirate Bible, and I would like Randall Deeb to debate Jacob Hansen.
I want to talk with Randall. Randall was super cool. It was funny. There was a little bit of a, you guys can imagine, it was a little awkward after the show. I'm with all
Really?
these people.
Why?
Most of them actually it was funny. It was a little awkward at first, but then like Randall was one of the first ones that came up and like was really nice. We exchanged phone numbers. We talked about, hey, maybe we want to do something in the future, like talk on each other's shows or whatever. And so he was super cool. And then over time, more of them kind of warmed up. And then we went to that dinner with Alex, and it ended up being like we all were kind of buddies there, and kind of broke the ice a little bit. And they realized I wasn't some hateful monster. And I was like, you guys do realize, like, I want you guys to go out and baptize people, right? Like, I think it's great when people get closer to Jesus through your churches. Like, we are all about like you guys being successful. We just would say, okay, but don't stop. Like, we hope that you'll continue to add upon the light that you gain through your traditions.
Yeah.
Do you know, I think it was, what's the city in Utah? Shoot, I don't have the reference for this. It's going to sound like I'm making this up. I think it could be Salt Lake City, where like every single building, every single church was paid for by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Like Methodists would come in, Presbyterians would come in, Baptists would come in, and the church is like, here, you want help building this building? Like, we'll help you get the lease. We'll help you pay the fare so that you can be here. Like, the church encourages other congregations all the time. We donate to build other churches. If we could convert the entire planet, all atheists in the world, to Catholicism with a snap of our fingers, we would do it without thinking twice. It'd be great. So we want to encourage all faiths. All faith
by the
is
way,
better than no faith.
Speaking of the Catholic thing, I did look it up, at least on ChatGPT, and it says historically, Catholic teaching has held that animals do not have immortal souls like humans. Since they lack rational spiritual souls, they do not experience the afterlife in the same way that humans do.
Aww.
So,
oh, bummer. So that movie, No, All Dogs Go to Heaven, there's like a Catholic remix where like
that's not like that. That's, in fact, I think it was in the context of that movie that I first learned about this.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, I was in like one of my Catholic, because I went to Catholic schools. I was in like a Catholic.
We got to talk to Trent. I want Lassie back. I want Lassie in heaven.
Actually, that'd be funny. I should ask Trent about that. I should find out from Trent, because he'll have more official sources. So that's what ChatGPT says. I believe that's the case. But anyway,
Okay.
Either Trent Horn or Joe Heschmeyer has recently made a video on that, actually.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've done stuff on it.
And I know that there are people that sort of, like, they say there is a hopeful perspective on here, that some Catholics say that in the new creation, like, animals will be back. But anyway, the traditional view is that no. I think like the official position is they don't have. I know at least there's this fact: the Catholic Church does not believe that animals have souls.
Okay.
That's my 95% sure.
Okay, we got to go to these super chats, and
Super
then
chats.
we're already 16 minutes into overtime. I want to go over some of the reactions from some of these other live streams, and we also have to finish what you've said. So super chats, what Jacob said, then their reactions, hopefully all in the next 20 minutes. Brittany, catch us up on super chats.
Okay, Doc says, date set, wife and daughter will be baptized on February 15th. Thanks, Ward Radio.
Hey,
Wow.
congratulations to the Doc clan. Congrats.
Oh, that's so awesome.
Having
anywhere near
fun,
us-
baptizing people. Welcome to Ward Radio, everybody.
Is it near any of us? I wonder if you can give us a location.
Yeah.
Maybe, if it's within a
Maybe not
day's
totally
drive.
publicly, but like, yeah, message us.
Yeah, you don't need to put like the address of the chapel in a super chat, but reach out, and if you can authenticate who you are and what your story is and everything like that. Gosh, we'd love to, if it is close by, maybe even meet you and stuff like that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, are you in Southern California? It's pretty lit down here right now.
Oh my God! No pun intended.
Too soon.
Actually, what's kind of crazy is I missed a couple video uploads last week because this studio was physically full of objects from surrounding wards that had brought like paraphernalia that you would want to save because they were in evacuation zones. The evacuation zone was only about 500 yards north of the studio. So
I was evacuated from work. I had to help my father-in-law evacuate. It's been stressful.
Yes. Now we have suffered nothing at all compared to those that have lost homes, structures, businesses, the whole 9 yards. And hey, frankly, being a loading zone for people that are under worse evacuation orders is a blessing and an opportunity to do service that we welcome. But you'll notice last week I missed a couple of video uploads because it was kind of cray down here. But anyway, really fast, next super chat, babe. Burn out the next three.
Okay, one cannot simply burn when I am scrolling, but let's see.
I got it. Kyle says...
No, I got it.
Oh, you got it.
If Jacob end up having a deeper chat on Theodicy, is that a word?
Theodicy.
Okay, yeah, that is a word. With Alex, I really hope he brings Blake Ostler. I think Alex would get hooked on his books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
all right.
I would love to make that connection between those two. I think
absolutely.
If I was going to pick our top brain philosopher, he's it. And
I do it. I would agree to it. I mean,
okay, wait. There's somebody.
I gotta do it.
There's somebody named.
You play it down, dude. You
there's
came in
somebody
and schooled me on Greek thinking versus Hebrew thinking, and that episode blew my mind to this day. I'm like, Jonah friggin' Barnes, dude.
Hey,
you heard it here.
Did one of you guys send Randall Deeb the Randall
Zoom link?
Deeb,
I sent him the Zoom link.
Okay, so that's actually him. If I let him in,
yeah,
right
right
now.
That's Randall.
Oh, okay, cool,
Oh,
good. I didn't want some guy that just came in saying, I'm Randall Deeb,
No, that's legit. No, that's
and
him.
he
That's
gets
him,
on
man.
and he's like, N-word, Holocaust denial, just tries to get us like totally just, like absolutely tanked in the YouTube algorithm or something, So, okay, here we go. Randall Deeb. Give him a second to get situated here. Brittany, can you read another super chat? And after you're done reading the super chat, we'll welcome young Sir Randall, son of Deeb, to the Ward Radio Wigwam. Brittany, 2 more super chats.
Yes. I see Feather 666. Yikes. He says nothing.
Oh, just a super chat. Okay.
I caught what he said below.
Okay.
It looked like he missed the thing in the chat, and then below he said, one of the coolest lines I have ever read comes from the Doctrine and Covenants Student Institute Manual. It read, God has all power because he is in perfect harmony with all law.
Okay, cool. Next super chat.
Okay, the next one I see is Poly Nike. Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay. I can't, what's that word? Nietzsche? Fallibility?
Nietzsche's fallibility.
Okay, refers to a previous Word Radio episode of atheism being stupid and asking atheists to explain why that Nietzsche is wrong in power dynamics.
Oh, I see. Like, why aren't you just a Nietzschean, Foucaultian, the world is nothing but power and preference, and why do you care about all this mumbo-jumbo soft Christian crap that is going around? Yeah, no, that's an interesting conversation for sure.
Okay, Crandall Logan also says self-promo in Discord post yesterday for Britt and other ladies of Ward Radio. Yep, we're going to get that to Britt. And then can you read the next 2 super chats from Sacred Seal and Charles Tully, babe?
Yeah, Sacred Seal, who was behind Conflict of Justice?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question.
I know, but I'm just going to wait for you guys to answer.
Okay.
Don't know.
Okay, cool.
Charles
No
Tully.
idea.
The funniest part of this debate format was how it fulfilled the leftist claim of right-wing Christians literally running to defend genocide. Oh.
Oh, savage.
Hey, Randall's here. Let's tone down.
Hey,
Wow.
Was that just some progmo or some like progressive taking a dig?
Charles.
Probably.
Ooh, I don't
Okay,
know.
then Elle Marie, and then we're going to run to Randall.
She said, bruh. Mad props, Jacob and Hayden. By the way, what was up with the DNC scripture on the screen? That was surprising. So freaking hilarious watching the faces of the Cretus when the Mormon got picked.
Deuces.
So that scripture actually, we know the Jubilee's editors could be watching this right now, so we just wanted for the record to correct what that scripture actually is. I have here a copy of the Pirate Bible. You can find this. Google this guy's Pirate Bible, worth the purchase. And that scripture actually goes like this. Avasty scallywags, 'tis right true that them unknowing and doing things fit for a good beating, they'll get a lighter splashing. You hear me? 'Tis true the more that's given, the more you're going to be expected to do. And if you're given much, you can't be expected to give more in return, savvy? I figure on the Sabbath,
awesome.
we should have some scripture reading on the Sabbath. So.
Randall's what the heck is this?
Randall's like, what insane asylum did I just walk into?
Hey, Randall, just so you know, this will be your intro. There's only 2 institutions in the world that are, our congregations are called wards. They're not called parishes. They're not called congregations. Just like you might live in LA County versus San Diego County. If you go to church in Santa Monica, you'll live in the Santa Monica First Ward. If you're south of Santa Monica Boulevard, you might be in the Santa Monica Second Ward, which meets at 11 p.m. instead of 12 or whatever. So we're divided into wards. That's what they're called. But there's only 2 institutions on earth that are divided into wards. What are they? Yeah, he knows.
Sane asylums and us.
Yeah, he knows it, brother. He's feeling okay. So unmute yourself, bro. Welcome to the Ward Radio Wigwam.
Let's get some W's for Randall, huh?
Yeah.
Howdy, gents and
More
lady.
W's.
More W's for Randall.
Thanks for the welcome. I did not expect this whatsoever, but it's quite a treat. Yeah.
Hey, dude, we're fun peeps. We're fun peeps. What can we
No,
say?
I could tell. I know. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna do it, but you guys were cool, and Jonah was. I'm Lebanese, so when you insist, that's my love language, and Jonah was kind of insisting, and so I was like, okay, and everybody else was, so I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'll jump on.
That's
and
why
Randall,
we baptized
Randall,
a lot of Lebanese.
Why don't you remind them a little bit, or explain to everyone a little bit about kind of your denominational background, kind of where you maybe have been and where you fit in now.
Okay, the question you just asked me is harder than all the questions that Alex posed to us. So, man, okay, well, I call myself Pentecostal just to keep it simple.
Cool.
But yeah, I know, right?
Those people are fun.
People get surprised.
Dude, Pentecostals are
so
super
surprised,
cool.
If you like me versus if you don't like me, you're either surprised or you're not surprised. But yeah, I mean, I grew up evangelical, but I've been all over the map. I mean, I had a bout with Calvinism, came back out, and so on.
We'll have a Calvinist phase, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Not me.
Although I will say, I've always been impressed that they do have some very tight logical arguments that they make about some things. It just unfortunately kind of turns God into an arbitrary chooser of who he loves and who he doesn't.
That's the problem with Calvinism, is that it depends so much on logic rather than the paradox of wisdom, which maintains 2 tensions at once. And that's what Scripture presents, is that.
Everyone has a Calvinist phase after they get dumped.
Yeah. Is that what it is? That's like the Christian version of going to the gym.
Speaking of which, Randall's looking pretty yoked. Am I right, guys?
Yeah, dude. Randall's an in-shape guy. Yeah. I've seen him in person.
Nice looking shirt.
Wait, I'm wondering, is Randall in the clip that I was going to use later? Did you? Wait, no, I don't.
No, he's not. He's not in the reaction video by the other guys.
That's not him in the glasses.
No.
I don't wear glasses now.
Oh no, I mean there was a guy that wore like these big sunglasses, so I couldn't tell who it was.
Oh yeah, he was like almost hiding his face. No, that isn't. That isn't
okay,
him.
cool.
I remember Randall.
Actually, I will say this, and I hope, and I mentioned it before. We need to watch that clip, and I do just want to say that the vibe in here compared to the vibe there, it's just noticeable, and I just want to, like, to you, Carden, I just have to take my hat off. You know how to make things a good time.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I married a hot wife. It all starts there. If you bring the pretty girls to the party, it's a lot more fun, right? So, and good music. Jonah's got the AC/DC hat on, So I will pull up that one other clip as Brittany reads the next 2 super chats.
Okay. You gotta give me like a little bit more leeway than that.
Okay, then I'll just
actually
play the clip.
Hold on. Actually, while she pulls those up, while we have
phone,
real quick, while we have Randall here,
Okay.
Could I just ask Randall?
Yes.
Just what you've seen the episode, all the stuff. Obviously, we have our opinions. I'm not expecting you to agree with all those opinions, obviously. But what was your general take on things?
Yeah, I actually really resonate with a lot of what you guys were saying, and there was a great deal of frustration throughout, as I'm sure everyone obviously felt. But it just really, I told my friends this afterwards. I was like, guys, it really like struck me in the face how disorganized and disunified we are as Christians. And we just have no unified prophetic witness to the world whatsoever. And that's why we've lost our power, I believe, as a church. And I told them, I said this in the chat, I'll say it again here, just for posterity, that the most Christ-like people that I experienced and dealt with when I was over there were Jacob and Hayden. And by the way, when Hayden went up, I had no idea he was Mormon. He was a breath of fresh air. I said this also in the chat. I want to just say it to your face in case you didn't read it, Hayden. But you were a breath of fresh air. I was stressing with all the people coming up and not even defending. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but not even defending the inerrancy of Scripture. Not even willing to try. Like just giving the farm away. Not like the hyper academics who weren't willing to, who were like too sort of adulterated by ancient Near Eastern sort of literary textual criticism, which that was my forte in school, and I even taught classes for 3 years on ancient Near Eastern literature. But and that's me saying that. But back to Hayden, he was such a breath of fresh air when he came up and when he said, when he brought up his fatherhood as the example. I was like, thank you. That's what we need. We need to answer the objections with the actual image that God gave us of the reality of the world, not an abstraction that we have formed in our own reason. God speaks in the language of creation and in the language, obviously, of that imagery throughout Scripture. And so when we think we're doing better by way of abstractions alone, I think we miss something. But anyway, that was a breath of fresh air, Hayden.
I was going to say, shoot, Jonah, we had a conversation about abstractions recently and the difference between the Greek mind and the Hebrew mind. You probably would enjoy that episode because we talk about that very idea of that we have become so Greekified in the way that we think that we lose some of that. And I even recently posted about it. It's like, I believe the gospel is actually more like music than a set of formulas.
100%.
And it's very hard to just explain a song to someone. I can show you on paper the notes and all of it, but until you've heard it and experienced it. And I will say, thank you for saying that I'm Christ-like, but it's very clear that you have never met Brad Whitbeck, who is here with us today, who is the one who keeps all of us in line with a Christ-like attitude.
Okay, well, hold on. Hold on. I will play this other clip really fast, though, just because this was the first reaction that I got from other people that had supposedly been at the event as well. The name of the live stream was Big John Steel or Stool. I can't see right now because it's not highlighted, but here we go.
So I don't remember the argument, but it does bring up the conversation. What do you guys think about the Mormons' last argument? I don't remember the argument.
By the way, Jacob Hansen, you're the Mormon. Just also,
there were two of them, though.
But also just like it never ends well when you put the in front of just like most minority groups. Like just so you know, guys.
No,
like
it's the one group. We're the one group you can still do that to, and it's all good.
It's all good.
The Mormons,
but just
better
like
than them when they're like, he's one of them.
It's like just with said like a Southern accent as Quaker
at least they're not
says.
shooting us in a mill. It's all good, right?
Exactly. So anyway,
it's happened.
Here we go.
Okay, so I don't remember the argument, but it does bring up the conversation. What do you guys think about the Mormons' last argument? I don't remember the argument, but what did you guys think about having Mormons?
It was horrible. I remember the last argument.
It was horrible, and one of them at least remembers the last argument. Okay.
So his last argument was, creedal Christians got nothing. We can explain animal suffering because it's logically required for whatever reason. And yeah, that was the argument.
And what do you feel about Mormons being there in the first place?
I mean, if we understand Christianity to be like the Nicene Creed, then it was 23 Christians versus
agreed.
Atheist. So,
and I know Mormons hate that because they're like, we are Christians, but I'm sorry, you got a whole new book that contradicts the book. Like I do not see a distinction between Mormonism and Islam when it comes to like how you guys came to be,
except for the whole Jesus part.
I don't.
Jesus is my one and only way to salvation, and I've consecrated my entire life property and everything.
Okay, before we dive in, I just have to point out, what did you notice he said at the very beginning? We're exactly 1 minute and 1 second in. He said, well, if you take not the scriptures, not Jesus Christ's quotes, not anything in the Bible, no, if you take the Nicene Creed seriously. And twice he references the Nicene Creed as the rubric for Christianity, not Jesus Christ himself, not any of that. And this has become such a violation of the 10 Commandments when the creeds themselves become a false idol, more important to you than what Jesus Christ himself says, then the creeds themselves have become a false idol. And you'll notice the only reason he literally acted with disgust that you were there, but not disgust because you said something like, I don't know, all men aren't equal under the eyes of God. It's not like you said something gross like, oh, debts don't need to be paid. You didn't violate any kind of doctrine. You didn't violate any kind of value, any kind of principle, any kind of scripture. No. You violated the Nicene Creed, which makes you think, are you a creedist or a Christianist?
And I want to make this point that, and because we have someone here who may be closer to that persuasion in some ways. Yeah. But I want to say though.
No, but he's hanging out with us and not acting with disgust, saying like, "Oh, it was horrible."
I know.
Oh, it was horrible.
He's not go be with those dirty Samaritan Mormons. We don't hang out with those people.
We're not gonna dine with those publicans.
But by the way, I can see why you confused me for the guy in the glasses.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we're both Mediterranean. That's why. Sorry.
And Randall, so are we Christian, right? When someone wants to know if I'm a Christian, I ask them, well, what do you mean by a Christian? And if your litmus test for a Christian is, do you accept the Trinitarian formulation of God? If you don't, and you don't accept these particular creeds, then you're not a Christian. Well, I'd say, well, then I'm not. I just say that I never would say that someone is a Christian based on their adherence to particular creeds. For us as Latter-day Saints, the way we would define Christian, what we're talking about when we say the word Christian is we're talking about someone who is sincerely trying to follow Jesus Christ and who holds him as what the New Testament makes him out to be, which is the risen Lord and Savior of the world, the only means to salvation, that kind of stuff. That's what I would consider someone to be a follower of that person in the New Testament, even if they disagree about
where does he go wrong, Randall? Where does he go wrong before? Oh, Brad.
I was just going to say, which tells me that the guy who was comparing us to Islam actually hasn't studied anything about what we have to say, because we absolutely believe in the divinity of Christ. Like that's what Jacob was up there defending. That was his thing.
Yeah, that was funny. You brought that up earlier. Randall, I don't know if you were part of the thing at that time, but literally the prompt that I was defending was that Jesus claimed to be God in the New Testament. Like, the guy who isn't a Christian was the one defending that proposition.
When I went back, when I watched the episode today, and that was the first time running back your segment before the last 10 minutes that you had, now knowing that you're a Mormon, I was like, wait a minute. I was so confused. I was like, why is he fighting for our team? Why is he why is he demonstrating that Jesus is God?
And Randall, this is the thing is, and this is what I appreciated so much about Alex when we went to dinner afterwards and stuff, is he was perfectly willing to say, I don't know that much about you. Tell me, help me to understand what you believe in. And as an outsider, I want to just to kind of give you some context. All we ever get are people who talk about us, but they almost never talk to us. Or if they do, they talk to someone who just does not know what they're talking about. But if you actually spend some time with like higher level Latter-day Saint scholarship, kind of the authors who publish about Mormon thought generally, you will find that many people are shocked by it. There's an evangelical pastor that I consider a good friend. His name is Pastor Jeff. He has a channel called Hello Saints. And I highly recommend it to anyone who's outside of our faith for an example of someone who's, in my opinion, doing it right. Like, he doesn't tell people what Mormon believe. He talks to us, and he talks to like good scholars. He's had me on his show. Like and he allows us to kind of articulate our own belief set. And people are surprised at what they find because there's so much just like, oh, do you want to hear what Mormons really believe? It's like, oh my gosh. And granted, we believe some weird stuff that people are going to disagree with, like no problem. But I just think that for you and anyone who's listening to this, who's a Christian, like, talk to us. And Alex O'Connor did a great job. Have that humility to say, hey, I don't know a lot. I don't know if I'm going to agree or disagree, and I might have issues, but like, I want to hear it from you guys.
Well, also, Randall, you're here. You're hanging out with us. You're cool. You like, listen to these cats. So what'd you think about a Mormon being there? Oh, disgusting. It was horrible. It's like listening to a bunch of old ladies in that movie, The Help. You know what I'm saying? Talking about, a black family moving in next door. It's like, how disgusting and bigoted can you get? You know what I'm saying? It's just like,
I want to hear.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just was going to say, I want to hear more from Randall. I want to hear your testimony. I want to hear your favorite scripture. But go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, say what you're going to say, Randall.
What I was going to say is, like, it's funny because when I brought up to my friends that, the last segment turned out to be a Mormon, all of them, of course, reacted the same way. It's like, oh man, what a bummer, what a loss. But I was quick to stop them and say, actually, what's funny is I would have reacted the same way if it wasn't for the way that they treated me. And the way that they were truly that breath of fresh air. Like, I can't even really convey the how much I mean what I'm saying, because just I don't want to badmouth others, but just the contrast. I'll just leave it at that. The contrast between the spirit that was there among them, everyone, certain people, and the spirit that was there with Jacob and Hayden was just night and day. And so I came away from that being like, nah, that was actually, I was like, I came here, wanting to make some connections. I ended up making the connections I didn't expect to make, but I knew immediately that was the right connections that I.
Well, I can tell you that when you came up and talked to us, and I felt like everyone was going to crucify us and like eat us for breakfast after the show ended, and you were actually the first one who came up and was super friendly and kind. So I appreciate that. And if you felt any of the Christ-like spirit, I think you were probably the one that brought it to the table as much as anyone. So
Randall, we want to do something for you here at Ward Radio. This is a moment.
Does it cost money?
What is your favorite scripture? Can you tell us your favorite verse?
Yes. I think I know what you're going to do, but it's Matthew 13:52.
Oh, you think you think we're so predictable?
No, because someone mentioned in the chat. I think that's why.
Matthew, sorry, what was it again?
Matthew 13:52.
13:52. Oh, I just happen to have that right here in the Pirate Bible.
Lay it on me.
Now, can you say? Can you quote it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
How does it go?
The master of the house. The scribe of the kingdom is like a master of the house who brings out of his treasuries things both new and old.
Wow, beautiful, very beautiful. Now, how that really should have been translated, because we only believe in the Bible as far as it's translated correctly. So this is a little better.
Yeah, I didn't recognize that King James English. I didn't.
It says, "Arr," said he to him. So every scribe what's schooled in the kingdom of heaven's like a man who's got his own place, who digs up from his treasure chest both stuffs old and new. Wow,
that's good.
Beautiful.
That conveys the sense pretty well.
I'm very curious, Randall. I have never heard anybody say they even like that verse, let alone that it's their favorite.
Yeah.
What is it that you like? What is it that you like about that verse so much?
Well, that verse was the verse that really just jumped out at me and like it rang in my ear like a prophetic calling when I first basically received the calling to pursue ministry, and it was because of the meaning that was being given to it by a certain teacher that had to do with the fact that Jesus is discussing the intertextual typology that the revelation of God was being fulfilled in Christ by. So, all of the Old Testament and New Testament types and shadows that connect to each other, not just running forward, but running backwards too, and just the layers of like symbolic meaning that are laced throughout Scripture. Which I think if I were to talk with a Mormon, and if I wanted to try to convince them of the Trinity, I wouldn't go to any of the passages that maybe seem to indicate the Trinity in a more didactic way, like most people might. I would want to try to demonstrate it just as I would with, let's say, a Jew through, let's say, Old Testament symbolism and typology. Now, whether that would be, ultimately persuasive or not is
I can tell one thing. I'm going to guess that are you a fan of Jonathan Pajau?
No, I know why you said, yeah, I don't really know anything about him or follow him. I've seen like one or two of his things, like short parts of it, but
because he's just very, I know that he's very into the symbolism stuff. And it's funny though, I also mentioned this because I know that symbols are something that are quite important to you, and I guarantee you there's some people on this stream right now that are going, symbols, we like symbols.
Yeah.
I mean, Jonah Barnes over here has like a whole book. He's like a master of the Apocrypha and different symbolic language is actually, it's funny within our tradition, especially within the temple, and our temple rituals. I mean, it's so symbolic that Latter-day Saints go there and they're like, I have no idea what the heck to make of this, because it's a high church type liturgy given in an entirely symbolic way, and Latter-day Saints at first don't quite know what to make of it, but end up falling in love with the symbolism of it. And if you ever get a chance, where are you located, by the way?
I'm in LA.
Okay, in LA.
Hey,
dude,
come on over.
Yeah, you're gonna come over to Carden's house. I can guarantee it.
So,
and you're gonna meet that great Dana there. It's huge.
The studio's by Magic
But I'll
Mountain.
say, if you ever get a chance to do a temple open house, a Latter-day Saint temple open house, I think you would find it really fascinating as they explain to you the symbolic sort of language that we immerse ourselves in within that ritual system.
Sure. I mean, especially after we talked, I would love to do that. If you recall, that was one of the things you brought up about the architectural symbolism of the temple, and in relation to how the Old Testament temple was a stylized Garden of Eden restored.
And there's a good Lebanese restaurant.
Mike Day and
Dave Butler, yeah.
Yeah, we got Dave Butler. You'd have some fun with those guys. We gotta arrange something. We gotta do this really good where you guys like hang out and just spend like a day talking about all this stuff and eating good food or something.
Okay, but we're not just gonna proselytize to rant. We want to learn from them too.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
I would
saying something
love
about
to
the Trinity?
see an episode of you, talking about the Trinity in the symbolic.
Okay, guys, we got to get to super chats.
To a Mormonism
And memes, people. The memes are gonna get old.
Did we cut off Randall though? I feel like he might have had something to finish about that.
No, not at all. I just wanted to shout because you mentioned Jonathan Pajau. My Jonathan Pajau is a guy named James Jordan. He's the guy who got me into all the symbolism stuff. And there is actually an Eastern Orthodox. We talked about this too. There is an Eastern Orthodox YouTuber that I would recommend that you connect with. I can try to connect you with him. That has done a lot of work with Muslims as well. And his work on symbolism is also outstanding. So that's all I wanted to say.
Excellent.
Cool. Rock on. Brittany, can you catch us up on super chats really fast?
Yes, but first, Ryder is texting me and he really wants a shout out. So shout out to our son who's watching this. Brush your teeth and go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you have. That's funny. That's hilarious.
Stay Strong for Christ podcast. Love you all so much.
All right. Hey, stay strong for Christ. That sounds like something a crusader would say before like storming Jerusalem behind King Baldwin in like, I don't know, whatever it was, the 12th century or something. Stay strong for Christ. That'd be like so rad. I like their podcast already.
Okay, Fidget the Crazy says, in NDE stories, There's been
near-death experience, I believe.
Okay, stories. There's been a field in heaven that they find that have their pets there. So they have their own little spot. Now I'm going back to drawing a bunch of different depictions of the first vision.
Rock on. Ooh, thank you.
Nice.
Falter Media, Jacob and Hayden, we salute you. And thanks to Brad for texting me back.
Oh, good. Yeah, hopefully we're going to get some shorts content soon with Falter Media. He's a pretty cool guy. He'll show up once a month at your locale and give you a month's worth of shorts content. He's got a pretty cool pipeline down. So he's working with us to hopefully make Brad look like compelling and articulate auteur of the faith. Brittany, keep going.
Alan Michael Boston says DNC 77, 2 and 3. Animals have spirits.
Okay.
You want to look that up?
We will. And then Pauline Nikes, and we're going to look it up on what, guys? What are we going to look it up
notes.
on? Scripture notes. Yeah.
He did correct it to 76. So if we're looking it up, go there.
Well, that makes more sense. I was like, 77? What the heck's in 77?
No, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
That revelation to, some random dude to like plant his fields this spring.
Harvest your beets a week early. Like,
no, it'd be more like teach your kids better stuff, but stop messing around.
Okay, keep going.
Okay, Lindsay and Jason Brown, please bring on Missionary Discussions 1286 from Missionary Discussions. This guy is breaking some Christian ankles on the spiritual field. If you know, you know. If he doesn't impress, I'll donate $100.
You don't have to keep super chatting. Travis Anderson is...
Yes, you need to keep super chatting.
Oh, yeah.
Shut up, Luke.
Yes, keep doing it.
You need to keep super chatting. We're holding him hostage until we get $1,000 of super chats. He won't be let
on the
out
Sabbath.
of the... Oh, you're right. I forgot. It's still the Sabbath. Although somewhere it's not. So, anyway, keep going, babe.
Polly Nikes, he was asking Randall his favorite Bible verse, but I think we did that.
Yeah, we got that one next.
Shauna American Selt Thornton says, Pentecostals are my favorite non-LDS Christians, and as soon as the Mormons and Catholics leave the room, they take the most heat from the Calvinists.
Oh. Is this true? It's nodding.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah, that's quite the diagnosis. That's very true.
You're next on the totem pole.
It's time for us all to band together.
Yeah, is it because you have?
Let's
maybe that's why I like Spirit.
Is it because you have better music? Is that why? Or
I don't know.
Everybody has better music than us.
No. The
Calvinists.
Calvinists. You ever been there? Oh, geez. It's actually, some of them have a good rock concert, but other times it's just a funeral dirge worse than a Mormon sacrament meeting. But all right, next super chat. Keep going.
El Marie says, those guys are why I left Protestantism and came full circle back into the faith once delivered to the saints.
All right, next one. Can you
Talking
get the next
about
three?
Calvinists, yeah.
Okay. That's all I.
And there are nice Calvinists. There are good Calvinists.
Yeah,
good pro-life work.
Brad,
there's some of them.
No, I've met three.
Like I said, Randall,
three.
Brad will reach out with a Christ-like kindness to all people.
Yes. So, and then there's us. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I am too harsh on Calvinists when left to my own devices. I need.
Actually, it is true. I've seen you a few times, Brad. You kind of like. Yeah, the Burger King.
He gets Canadian angry, and Canadian angry is right one step below my irritable. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, so David Olson says, regarding animals and souls, Google the all dogs go to heaven church sign debate. Oh man, I'm going to totally have to Google that one right now. All dogs go to heaven church sign debate. And then the next one, babe, do you have it or do I got to read that one too?
The next one I see is Mike Bell.
Okay, go for it.
But I don't know if I've missed some in between.
Nope, you're good.
But Mike Bell says, oh.
Did we catch El Marie?
I said
Mad
El
props
Marie.
to Jacob.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
Good.
Okay, Mike Bell. Question for Randall. What kind of flack do you expect from your comrades for appearing on a Ward Radio Live?
I won't lie, that crossed my mind, but I don't really care. Because, honestly, yeah, I mean, it depends on whether you mean the folks that were on the episode or you mean my own friends. But I think if it's the folks on the episode, I don't care. I don't think there's any association. I would. That was actually one. I mean, I don't want to reveal too much of the inner kind of thoughts, but I would be losing nothing. So, and then, but then with my friends, nah, they'll totally dig it. I have good friends. So,
yeah, my buddy married a Lebanese chick. She was pretty cool. Great food. Who did? So,
a buddy of Cardin's. Yeah.
Yeah, not me. Brittany is not Lebanese, although when we go to Glendale, people oftentimes do start bursting into, for some reason, Farsi, asking her if she is Persian. It is very common.
I've gotten in my Persian a lot throughout my life, and I'm just a white girl, so I don't know.
Yeah, so anyway, I found the All Dogs Go to Heaven controversy. It is on the screen right now. Apparently, Our Lady of Martyrs Catholic Church posted one day, all dogs go to heaven. Then Beulah, which is the Presbyterian church across the street or nearby in proximity, said, only humans go to heaven, read the Bible. The next day, the Catholics said, God loves all his creations, dogs included. Then Beulah, Cumberland Presbyterian Church says dogs don't have souls. This is not open for debate. Then Our Lady of Martyrs Catholic Church said Catholic dogs go to heaven. Presbyterian dogs can talk to their pastor. At which point Beulah says converting to Catholicism does not magically grant your dog a soul. At which point Our Lady of Martyrs Catholic Church says free dog souls with conversion. And Beulah says dogs are animals. There aren't any rocks in heaven either. And then finally, Our Lady of Martyrs says all rocks go to heaven. I don't know if this is AI generated. I just repeated this whenever I Googled online. This might be just sheer internet lore. But whatever it was so funny.
I love it.
Whatever it was so funny.
I have a question for Randall that I just thought of.
I was going to say something, by the way, on that point, but go ahead.
I guess you can say that first, but this will be my question after you say that. What was your contention going to be for Alex had he picked you? If you remember.
I'll answer that one first. My contention was going to be that the contradictions in the scripture are actually intentional and that they're designed intentionally to stimulate deeper reflection, to reveal something greater. So, and I was going to go through a litany of examples. And so I think if Christians can realize that contradictions are intentionally placed there to reveal, again, a paradox about the reality of God and our, relationship with him and so on. But that's what I was going to try to get him on.
Okay, we're done in 9 minutes, guys. We're done in 9 minutes here.
Wait, I think Randall wanted to say something about spirit dogs.
This actually, so one thing about this is interesting because this relates to Mormonism. It can connect to it to some degree and to some of what we talked about with me and Jacob. But there is a theory that describes. Okay, so you understand in the Eastern Orthodox faith. We have the fact that God, by apprehending our essence, our nature, he divinizes us he deifies us and divinizes us into his, sort of.
Sounds good to me.
We are fans of the Eastern Orthodox theosis ideas. We're like, you guys are going in the right direction.
Right.
And their beards.
So then there's another layer to that you can apply downward by saying that that's the same relationship we have with our pets or our animals, is that when we domesticate and master them, and the way that we bond with them and apprehend them in our own rational higher soul intellect, we have the same effect that God has on us, where we almost humanize them. And in fact, by fulfilling their potential, obviously, like C.S. Lewis talks about a wild dog being a wretched creature, but a tame dog being the most wonderful creature, right? It's such a difference. It's almost like a different creature. So the idea of humanizing an animal by placing it under our dominion and our care and embedding them in with us in the same way that we are embedded with Christ and therefore are deified with God.
I love it.
Okay, I can see that for Great
cooler
Danes.
than anything a Calvinist has told me.
Okay.
What'd you say? I didn't catch that. What'd you say?
I said what you just said was cooler than any theological thing a Calvinist has ever said to me. So
yeah.
Well, also I could see that for Great Danes. I could see that for Golden Retrievers, but Chihuahuas.
Chihuahuas.
Like, you know, like
What about
all of their owners are going to hell anyway.
What about cats?
Oh my gosh.
oh jeez.
I love cats. I
like cats too. I actually more of a
Chihuahuas-
cat guy than a.
Chihuahuas are just like the cats of dogs, right?
They're
No,
snake
they're
bait.
not.
They're
Cats are like
snake bait.
nice and they clean up their poop for you.
Yeah,
and
I
like,
love them.
And Chihuahuas are like the worst of all worlds.
Chihuahuas can be cute. I like Chihuahuas.
Okay, when are we ready for the memes here, people?
We're
let's
caught
do
up on
memes. Meme
super
it up.
chats. Let's hit the memes. And then unfortunately, we've reached the end of our time here. We can listen to more bigotry from other people that hate Mormons, or we can listen to memes. So we'll just do the memes really fast. Hit us, my man. Hit us.
We're gonna hit the memes? Oh
Yep,
wow!
hit
All
the
right,
memes, bro.
Cardin, if you head to the Discord, so people, we have listened to, like, you've been here for a long time. We've listened to blah blah blah, philosophy, blah blah blah, eternal salvation. That's not what you come here for. That's not what you come here for. You come here for the memes. Okay. So in the Discord, Cardin, you're gonna find it's got a little header, the memes.
Okay.
And we will begin. There's a meme from Luke Hansen, who found this guy.
Okay, which one is it? Just tell me.
There's a million of them, so I don't know if you need to pull them all
Is it
out.
already the Alex O'Connor Bernie Sanders one?
I'm
we did
once
that one
again
already.
asking. That's a great.
Oh, we
meme.
already did that one. We already did
Okay,
that one.
underneath that, you're going to see there's a picture of Alex O'Connor when he was a young musician.
Yes, with
surrounded
101 Dalmatians.
by 101 adorable little Dalmatian puppies. Okay, this is how Alex O'Connor fell from being a theist to his creedist neighbor Cruella de Vil. This is the villain origin story of an atheist here, because she now walks around in a beautiful fur coat made from Dalmatians. There's also a picture of Alex O'Connor when he was young, mourning the death of his dead pet hamster Ricky.
Is this just a meme roast of Alex O'Connor now?
These are all. Look, I'm just reporting the news, okay, Brad? I don't know. I'm just reporting the news here, okay? The internet has spoken. There's also the Thor meme.
Yeah, we got it. Atheism. You can't defeat me.
Trad Christians. I know, but he can. And communism comes bursting through Asgard. Then, of course, this actually happened. This was crazy to see. I'm sorry to compare you to Anakin Skywalker, Jacob, but 23 Christians were screaming, "You were supposed to defeat the skeptic, not join him." Jacob responded, "I hate your creeds." And it was beautiful.
Oh my gosh.
Then we have Mormons, or Jacob Hansen there rambling, says, and then they murdered the apostles, and then the Platonism came in, and the creed supplanted the plain and precious truths. And then he says, "Hey, I think I'm kind of starting to like this religion."
I love Goonies.
I love Goonies. Also, there's a picture. This is
no.
This is right after.
Leave now, Randall.
This is right after the debate here.
Randall, we're joking around, man.
All the Creole Christians got together here, but there was one person there who was not. He was sitting there. If you look real close, that looks like Hayden Carroll, right?
Yeah.
But no,
Well,
hold on,
Hayden's
real quick.
just
Just because Randall is in on this, I want him to know. If you want to see us get made fun of, they have entire musicals about it. So we get to swing back a little bit. All right?
Well, this one I didn't post.
Round.
No, that last one I didn't
Trust me.
post because YouTube would get angry at it. I've tried using that same picture on thumbnails, and YouTube specifically recognizes this. Randall, just so you know, it's the classic picture of the one man who sat there with his arms crossed while everybody else was doing the Hitler
The
salute.
Elon Musk sign.
The Elon Musk
sign. You know what I'm saying?
Gosh.
And it showed a circle around it, and it said "All hail the creeds," and then it pointed an arrow to the one guy that's not doing it, saying Mormons, right? But I've used that on I've tried to use that on a thumbnail, just in a different reference of, like, you know, opposing the majority, and it recognizes the picture and flags it. Yeah. So
and for everybody listening, if you're in the Ward Radio Discord, you can find it on the wardradio.com website in the top right corner and join our Discord. It's a very fun place. You want to head there. All these memes are, of course, going to end up in the memes channel of that Discord right after the show. So you can go find these there if they're a little too hot for YouTube.
Okay, well, let's finish hearing what Jacob had to say.
We also have more super chats
before he left, and then we'll read the super chats and we're out of here because we only got like 3 minutes. So I'm just gonna wind back here to hear what Jacob had to say so he can get his moment in the sun. We'll read the last super chats, and then we're going to get out of here. So if it's not Sunday, wherever you are, and you got some last questions you want to throw in, then you better do it now, but it can't be Sunday where you are. So you better be like in New York or something.
And just so you know, Cardin, that's only half of the memes. I don't know if you want to do all of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll come back. So let's just finish what Jacob had to say, and then we'll go back to the memes.
It's not that I chose to put them in that world. See, this is a difference in Latter-day Saint theology.
Sure, that's what I'm interested in.
In Latter-day Saint theology, there is a pre-existence, and human beings, knowing the unjust nature of reality, have the choice.
Oh, they choose to.
Choose to enter into the mortal state, to pass through. The way to look at it is there's this realm of injustice where anything can happen. I can go out tomorrow, my kid can get cancer, all these things can happen. And the idea is we say, but if you're willing to pass through the realm of injustice, this is a necessary condition to reach your divine potential.
How come? Why is it necessary?
This is another thing about Latter-day Saint theology that's different. Like, for instance, God cannot create a square circle.
Why does that apply here? I mean, why can't he do that?
Because God cannot bring you to your divine potential because of the nature of the laws of reality.
Okay, but like, why not? Because you're just sort of restating that he can't do it. I want to know why.
I know what I'm saying is that there are laws that even God is bound by.
Like, which laws are relevant here?
Pause it real quick, because I just want to make a quick comment. He's talking about, like, what are these laws? So I would use this one as an example. God wants to bring us into a relationship with him, a loving relationship. And there are essential characteristics of love. And one of those things is that love must be freely chosen. I cannot be forced into a relationship with something. This is one of my primary beefs with Calvinism, is because you're not free to be able to choose God. God chooses you, and it's like, it doesn't matter. And so and I didn't have the time or just the presence of mind in that moment, but that's what I was referring to. There are aspects of the way that reality is organized that God can't violate. He can't make me have a loving relationship with him unless I freely choose it. And I wish I would have said that at this point, because that's the sort of thing that I'm talking about that constrains even God and what he's able to do.
I was curious why you went this route instead of talking about creation ex nihilo and how we believe that.
Because I'm a fool, Brad. Because I should have gone there, and that would have been great. But
Way
I
to
didn't.
rub it in, Brad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's funny. All right, we'll let you finish here.
Why is God, explain to me how the law of non-contradiction binds God to not create a world where there's no suffering?
Because that relationship with God must be freely chosen, and God cannot force me. Because there is the question, why doesn't God just make us all happy?
But that's
all
a
the time
separate question,
forever?
because God could make a world in which there's no suffering, in which you're still
I disagree.
in which you're still free to choose whether or not to follow him.
I would say that is a logical contradiction.
Okay, so maybe you can tell me why. Because right now what you're telling me is that it's illogical on the level of creating a square circle to create a system that a person can voluntarily choose to sort of exit the heavenly realm and go into in order to do whatever they need to do to get to God's ultimate
Not to
potential.
get to God, to become as he is.
Sure, to fulfill their full potential. That has to involve not just suffering, but the kind of suffering that we see on planet Earth. I'm asking why that's logically necessary.
A totally unjust world, okay? Because it is by passing through this realm that we have the experience of injustice that allows us to know what injustice is.
But why do we need to know what injustice is?
Because how else can we come to be
pause
like
it, pause it. There's the second Nephi. There's the second Nephi too. There is that scripture. And if you want to pull it up specifically, he asked the questions, why is it that we need all this suffering? And do you want to put it on screen, or do you want me to just read it? Because I have it here.
Just start reading it while I'm putting it up on the screen.
It's 2 Nephi 2:11, and this is literally an answer to that question. It says, "For it must needs be that there is an opposition in all things. If not so, righteousness could not be brought to pass, neither wickedness, neither holiness nor misery, neither good nor bad. Wherefore things must needs be compound in one. Wherefore it should be one body, it must needs remain dead, having no life, neither death, nor corruption, nor incorruption, happiness, nor misery, neither sense nor sensibility." And it's interesting because it goes on to say this. It says, wherefore it must needs be, in other words, it's necessary that the world would have been created for a thing of naught. and there would have been no purpose in the ends of its creation. Wherefore this thing must needs destroy the wisdom of God and the eternal purposes, and also the power, mercy, and justice of God. It says, and if ye shall say there is no law, ye shall say there is no sin. And if you say there's no sin, then you shall say there is no righteousness. And if there be no righteousness, there be no happiness. And if there be no righteousness nor happiness, there be no punishment nor misery. And if these things are not, there is no God. And if there is no God, then we are not. Neither the earth, for there could have been no creation of things, neither to act or to be acted upon. Wherefore all things must have vanished away. And I just think that that is like a beautiful, poetic, powerful answer to that question. Why can't it just all be love and rainbows all the time? And many of us have been missionaries, use that analogy of like, you can't know cold without hot. You don't get one without the other. There are these logical, inherent realities that exist that even God, if he wants to create goodness and beings like himself, that these other things must be possible, including the possibility of agency, which gives you the possibility to reject God, cause wickedness and evil. And now we have the ingredients of a cosmic contest for our souls, to see where are we going to go. God has given us our agency, and now the question is, what are you going to choose? What do you want to be? And God is he wants you to be like him, but you have every right to go and abandon that and go to wherever else you want to go, which isn't him.
And Jacob got right at the buzzer beater of the end of this clip. You can hear where Jacob really ties it off with a bow.
Yeah, I was going to say also, Randall, now that you were forced to listen to our heretical scripture, we're going to get you a free subscription to scripturenotes.com. So on your iPhone, we're sponsored by scripturenotes.com, and there's people of all different denominations that love using it because it has links to all kinds of stuff. Jonah, tell him while I'm pulling up the clip.
Scripturenotes.com, it synthesizes Old Testament, New Testament, King James translation, also many apocryphal writings. So not just the books that were taken out of the Catholic Bible by the Protestants, those books, but the books of Enoch, First and Second Enoch and Third Enoch, the Hebrew Enoch, as well as the book of Jasher and Hebrew traditions, many of the books of Adam and Eve that were discovered, the Dead Sea Scrolls, all kinds of things are all together searchable in the database. It even has an AI that'll help you look topically if you want to. It's a really cool application.
And it's got all the hyperlinks to the different dictionaries from the 1800s and the 1900s. And yeah, it's
all
actually
in one place. It's really pretty cool. Now, it also has the heretical Latter-day Saint scripture in there, which you're free to peruse if you'd like.
Yeah.
If you want, just put it in the apocryphal bin and study it as an academic exercise.
That's fine.
Rock on. So here's the rest of...
Hey, check out that bookshelf. That's good.
So here's the rest of Jacob Hansen.
Like the Adam and Eve story. There's the fruit of the tree of knowledge.
By the way, look at that disgust.
Yes.
Like, look at that utter
Not
disgust. Like, I keep telling this to Christians. At worst, we are your Samaritans. And it was the Samaritans that were first to recognize the divinity of Jesus. And it was a Samaritan that took the man who was attacked by thieves on the road to whatever the city was. It's the good Samaritan. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need to react with sheer horror and disgust. Like, the annoyance I get. Like, okay, a Mormon showed up to what we thought was going to be the creedal Christian party, and he's kind of got a loud mouth and he's eating more than his fair share of the hors d'oeuvres. I get that. I understand annoyance, okay? I understand annoyance, okay? But, you know, you don't need to act with utter and sheer disgust, you know? I'm going to go back and just watch that one more time.
What is justice? That allows us to know what injustice is.
But why do we need to know what injustice is?
Because how else can you come to be like God? Kind of like the Adam and Eve story. There's the fruit
Look
of
at
the tree of knowledge and good and evil.
So what is justice? How do you define justice?
Off the top of my head, I would say that justice is getting what you deserve.
Yeah, right. Okay. And so the problem is that, like, you can imagine a situation in which there was nothing wrong, nothing bad, nothing evil, and therefore no need for this rectifying force of justice. It's a little. We say justice is a good thing, but justice is a good thing insofar.
Can you know?
Hold on. Justice is a good thing insofar as it overcomes injustice. That's what it's there for. In the same way that chemotherapy is a good thing because it tries to overcome cancer. If I said that I was going to create cancer so that we could have the good of chemotherapy, and you said, why would you do that? And I said, because there's no way for us to achieve the good of chemotherapy without creating cancer, you'd look at me like I'd lost my mind.
No, it's like saying, this is the better analogy. It's like saying to my son, the only way that you can become the way I am is to go out into that world where anything could happen and to persevere.
Okay, so I still have a qualm with this, but for the sake of time, I want to ask you about animals. Do animals consent to go into this?
Real quick right there.
Once again, I'm asking you about...
Hey, there's our boy! Hey, it's the first time I saw him.
Hey,
there's our
Randall did
boy.
great.
Hey, look, he's not looking at us with disgust. You passed the test, Randall.
Randall kept Alex busy for a long time. Randall was up there for a long time.
Oh, you know what? I just didn't recognize him, man. Okay.
Handsome fellow.
I just realized that lady who's looking at Jacob like with daggers the whole time he's talking in the second round, she's the same one who, when she sat down with Alex, she said, nice to meet you. I'm not a fan of yours because I don't even know who you are. But anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So she's like, and this was one of the moments that stood out to me in this whole video, is the person who agreed to go on Jubilee to talk to an atheist, and they don't even know the main atheist on YouTube right now. Like, just say no to the invite.
And here's let me do something for the Christians listening here who listen to us kind of rag on stuff.
And then Randall wants to say something. Yeah,
absolutely. And I was just going to say though that I also want to recognize there were people of various levels of understanding in this thing, and they did not. I know that there are some very sharp Christian apologists, philosophers, other people, 100%, and they did not get, this was not like the 25 best Christian apologists dealing with Alex O'Connor. Okay. These were a pretty wide range of people. And some of them were like wildly, like, this lady she's like just a lady.
Yeah.
That's fun. No, she's a lady from HR, and I think her name is Diane Karen or Karen Diane. I'm not sure, but anyway,
Randall,
what's going on, bro?
No, the moment passed. I was just gonna say, like, what she said that they kept in. It was actually worse than that. They cut out something else. That, if you remember, Jacob, the interchange was a little bit longer than what they kept in there between her and remember how awkward it got? Yeah,
remember with her? Yeah, it got super awkward.
It was momentary, but
yeah.
Well, what happened?
I think they actually cut out some of the worst parts for the Christians. Actually, that's
she just pulled out a piece of bacon right in front of him, looked him dead in the eye, and just ate it.
Oh my gosh!
She didn't know who he was, so she couldn't have prepped that.
Hayden, we haven't heard from Hayden. What did he say?
I was just gonna say, if I remember, it's not important. If I remember correctly, she made a stink about having her purse like on the table or something. Do you remember that? That was weird.
Yeah, it was awkward.
Huh. Oh, she was like, I don't want my purse around an atheist.
That's weird.
What she was saying. Okay, well, let's finish up this clip. Here we go.
The fallen world. They are part of the fallen order.
Do they feel pain?
I don't know. That's more of a good question.
Can I ask you a question, Jacob?
What?
You don't know if animals can feel pain? What does that mean?
No, yeah. I would say not in the same way that we do.
He goes on to say,
if probably do, yeah. I would say that I don't know that animal consciousness is the same as ours. Okay. I think that's actually does a fly suffer in the same way that you do when your child, dies? Like, I don't think flies do. So if I step on a fly and the other fly witnesses their fly friend get squished, are they like depressed for like the next year? Like, I don't think
stabbing a dog. You even said that it causes suffering, right?
Yeah. But again, the suffering that is caused and the conscious experience of that suffering, I have to think that there's some kind of a meaningful difference there, and that can change the entire equation. He brings up these arguments about animal suffering, which, by the way, just everybody notices. At this point, Alex has more or less, he hasn't really, I don't think, successfully dealt with my ability to explain suffering as it relates to human beings. So it's kind of like Alex has gone as far as he can, and it's kind of like he hit the wall, and now he's like, all right, I'm not getting anywhere with the human suffering. Animals. He has some explanations here. Let's pivot to my baby, and we'll go to the animal suffering. And this is where I do struggle a little more. But when he brings up the pain thing, I do genuinely believe that the conscious experience of animal consciousness, we don't know what that's like compared to our own.
That's just because you're a vicious animal trapper and you want to just conveniently, just shirk the responsibility.
That I will tell you what, an animal being hunted, if you learn about nature, is like the smoothest way to take them out of this world compared to the way they get taken out generally slowly by some disease.
Murderer.
Imagine the
worst. Well, Mormons are usually burned alive in their cabins, so us just shooting them in their front yards, we're just a bunch of humanitarians,
that's a good dark turn.
The Huntsville massacre was the fast and easy way to do it.
So anyway, the rest of the clip is interesting.
Okay.
Well, anyway, go ahead. There's still a little bit here. This is where we get into the animal suffering part.
Okay, so here we go. Finishing up the clip. Yeah.
So I know animal suffering, that was a big thing with Alex. I'm assuming like physical suffering. Is that what everyone else got? Or are they thinking like
under the tree?
Emotional, mental, spiritual, do
well, see,
animals
and that's
feel
the thing
all that
is
kind of suffering?
If animals don't suffer emotionally from their physical pain the way that we do, that does change the equation of the way something would impact. Like something that happens to an animal isn't going to be the same level of suffering as something that happens to you. It's
I understand where you're coming from. Right? I understand where you're coming from, Jacob. I just think it's not something that we can quantify in a way that I think makes a meaningful enough distinction to like even question whether or not animals feel pain. To me, it seems pretty obvious that they do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
and I wasn't nuanced enough in that response. I was kind of like, I don't know, maybe they don't feel pain, but it's sort of like, no, they definitely feel pain. But anyway, I think I've kind of
and I'll tell you right now, Diane was not impressed. Diane Karen was not impressed. All right.
Not having it.
So here we're coming back to the last of the clip. Jacob Hansen, go.
What's your confidence level? Like if I started strangling a dog in front of you, would you stop me?
Yeah, I think
that
I have.
Alex
an
is so good at
obligation
this.
to prevent
the way he took my answer and was like, you know what? I'm not going to let you get away with that. What's your confidence level? Like, let's just play with this. That kind of stuff from someone like me who's into like debate and how to like do these kind of games. This guy's so freaking good. I just got to say that. So go on.
We get it. You're a fan. We get it. We get it. So here we go.
Not death. No, I'm not going to kill it. I'm going to sort of even to Deadpool style keep it alive just so it can suffer more. Will you stop me from doing that?
Yeah.
Like, why?
Oh, look at that smirk. Hey, that was a good smirk. Hey, I like that. I'm liking this Randall guy more and more.
Because I believe that God wants us to protect the created order.
Okay, so
and to create goodness, light, and truth.
So would that be similar to like me stepping on a plant or something? You're just like, hey, don't do that, man. It's the created order. Or do you think it's because they're suffering?
Yeah, I think it is probably because they're suffering, but I don't understand that suffering in terms of the way that humans suffer.
Okay, because you said that the reason why it's not so much of a problem for humans to enter the Vale of Tears and have to suffer is because they consent to do so before they're born.
It's
if
coming.
Animals don't do that, then I don't think that their suffering is justified on the same grounds.
Well, let me turn this around because while I think that you bring up some objections there, my claim is that we have a better capacity to handle this than the creedal Christian model.
Ooh.
Sure. Okay,
so would you agree with my claim that we have a better model than creedal Christianity?
I don't know because I don't know enough because we've only been speaking for 10 minutes. There are probably things that it deals with better and things that it deals with worse. For example, I've spoken a ton on my show about the Gnostic cosmology.
Pause real quick. Just one quick again a note here. This is Alex's strongest point. This is my weakest point. He now is. I retreated to the idea because I was thinking, I was like, I don't know exactly how to handle the animal one. I was trying to think. And then I was like, wait a minute, but he's not defending this. What does this have to do with my prompt? Because even if we can't handle the animal suffering side of it, but like Alex, in order to disprove the prompt, you would have to show that some other tradition does a better job. My thing isn't, we can solve every problem. It's that we can solve them better than others.
Well, I think he doesn't know Mormonism well enough to even ask a question.
And that's exactly where he went, and he was smart to do that. And I was like, dang it anyway. I can't ask him to do that. So we're kind of stuck at like, do we just stop talking or do we like continue?
Well,
and so my escape hatch didn't work. He did a good job.
He seeds something here that's really interesting, and I'm just going to put this up on the screen for the viewers that have just jumped on. We still got 4 figures of viewers on all the platforms. Welcome, guys. If you haven't liked this stream, please make sure you like it. We are already into triple overtime here, so if you have any last final questions, we'll do one last round of super chats before we go. But look on the screen viewership, all right? Like, this is Alex O'Connor to the left. This is Jacob Hansen on the right. And dude, that guy in the middle is hating being there. That guy in the middle is like, get me out of the room with this Mormon. Like, I can't stand that he's even here, that he's speaking on our behalf. And that's the same dude you will recognize. You guys will recognize him as the guy in the glasses that literally said, oh, it was horrible. It was horrible that there was even a Mormon in the room.
Oh, yeah.
So this guy with the glasses in the middle, that literally
that's I actually know who that is. His name's I think it's Than. Than, I think is his name, and he was at dinner with us, and he's actually sat right next to me. He was nice at dinner, but
he's hating life right now.
He was rolling his eye, and he was on Inspiring Philosopher.
Yeah,
he was on with Mike. Yeah, and I
could tell. I could tell.
There's the guy.
In a world of Thans, be like Randall.
Exactly. In a world of Than, be like Randall. And Than, you're welcome to come on my show if you ever want to talk about Mormonism and talk about this and our differences.
And more than our differences, I want to tie this back to something Randall said when he first came on. I think we need to focus a whole lot more on where we agree, because as Randall noted, there is not a unified prophetic voice of Christianity out there right now. Alex had 25 different opinions coming at him, which I think personally strengthens our position, because, hey, if the Bible is more than enough, how come all 24 of these different people interpreted that differently, right?
23.
Yes. Yeah, here I am. But I think that is one of the biggest things that we need to be doing as Christians, rather than looking for where we differ. Who cares? Let's find where we agree and build from there, right? I think that's what Christ would want us to be doing.
Bro, I think they do agree on one thing. Catholics and Mormons aren't Christians. 22 of those people in that room. 22 of those people in that room.
No, it's the JWs, not the Catholics.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
J-Dubs,
Jeez.
Well, the J-Dubs, the Mormons, and the Unitarians.
Oh,
yeah, those guys.
The list keeps growing. So here
hey,
we're gonna finish.
Look on the bright side. There's no the Inquisition ain't happening. We're at least past that, right?
Oh, there's a thin veneer of civilization that's protecting us from the North American Protestants who would love to do what they did to us in the 21st century, that they did in the 19th century. Like, you guys all know what I'm talking about.
We have a little historical trauma still, with us.
I have the newspaper clippings from the 1920s right there of B.H. Roberts having to disguise himself as a homeless man to go and collect the missionaries' bodies in Tennessee after the Elderberry Massacre. So anyway, the last of the clips right now, go.
A lot to do away with problems like the problem of evil and the weird sort of seeming immateriality of Jesus in some passages and stuff, but there's a lot of problems with it too. There's a ton of problems, such as God's providence and the nature of why the demiurge is created. All of these ideas are oftentimes, I think, created because they better account for certain things over others. Don't think that's necessarily the case with Mormonism, of course, but yeah, I'm sure in some cases it does.
Diane's not having it.
In this case, I don't think it does anything more to explain the suffering of animals.
Your problem with the suffering of animals is that it's unjust.
No, it's not.
Then suffering? If suffering ultimately is redeemed, let's say the animals on the other side, for all they suffer, they get the best possible animal future that you could ever imagine. And the animals get there and they go, this is great, it was all worth it.
Yeah, then the question is why,
it would be worth it. So it's the injustice of it.
The question is, why aren't they just given that without the suffering first? I can understand why that wouldn't happen with humans for whatever. Again, I want to clarify, I still have
hold on, I just got to pause that. I just to make the point, and then I know we got to keep this rolling, and I have to run really soon. But I want to just say that was a brilliant move on his part. Because what he said was, why can't, like with humans, we have to go through this whole experience and stuff. He's like, why is animal suffering necessary for the animals themselves, right? Or at all to achieve God's purposes? Could we have humans still had the same experiences without some deer in the woods dying, like he likes to use? That's the strongest form of his argument. And he does a very good job here. Now, I try and take it a level kind of back one, just because I don't have a lot of really good answers for that, and say, look, but the problem you have here fundamentally is that not that they're in pain, but that this pain is not, it's not justifiable. It's the injustice of the pain against that animal that you have the issue with. And he says, no, that's not my issue. And I'm kind of like, no, Alex, that's exactly when you use the word gratuitous suffering, gratuitous means unjust, unnecessary.
Well,
and
you
so,
finally bring it to a head at the very end of this.
Yes,
clip.
and that's what I was going to say.
Finally
Let's run it to the
And
end.
new rule. No more explanations of anything having to do with animal suffering. Dare I say we've beaten that horse to death. All right, no pun intended. We've beaten that horse to death. All right,
beating the horse, Garden.
So here we go.
Good line.
Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna back it up just 2 seconds if it'll do it. There we go. Boom. Here we go, Jacob.
Future that you could ever imagine. And the animals get there and they go, this is great, it was all worth it.
Yeah, then the question is
then
why,
it would be worth it. So it's the injustice of it.
The question is, why aren't they just given that without the suffering first? I can understand why that wouldn't happen with humans for whatever. Again, I want to clarify. I still
conceded.
That guy hates being there.
With your idea, but let me just grant it for a moment. I can understand why you need to do that with humans before they get the nice reward at the end. But why the animals? Why cause them to suffer?
Human beings will suffer as well, unjustly. It's just the nature of an unjust world.
The suffering of animals, I think, is unexpected if a good God is overseeing.
But it's not a problem if ultimately they are compensated.
Well, I think it still is a problem because you don't just get to inflict suffering and then compensate people and think that that's okay. Have you heard of the Bullingdon Club? It's a club.
No, if I have to inflict suffering on here.
Wait a second. Let me give you this example. Let me give you this example. There's an infamous club, a private members club at Oxford University called the Bullingdon Club. They're a bunch of like Etonites, posh kids who used to go around. They'd go to restaurants. They were incredibly rich. They would host a dinner and then they would trash the place. They'd flip over tables, they'd smash things, they'd cover the walls and everything. It was absolutely devastating, just horrible behavior. And then when the owner came up and said, what the hell have you done? They just paid them off. They said, hey, have a bunch of money. And not only that, they paid them way more than the repairs are worth. So they could get away with it because if anything, they've done those people a favor. No, it's still terrible, awful behavior because even if you've compensated someone for it, if you've caused them for suffering, which by the way, still hasn't been explained
real quick,
why that suffering exists,
30 seconds.
it doesn't seem like it's worth it.
Let me do this.
Or if it's not worth it, it doesn't seem like it's
Pause real quick. I want to address this analogy because I actually think it's a bad analogy. It's weak. I have here kind of for another video. What if the only way to achieve world peace for the next 1,000 years was to allow that group of boys to smash up a few restaurants? And let's say that all the restaurant owners would be given $1 billion to compensate them, right? Like, would that be worth it? And the reality is the Christian claim is that any and all suffering of any kind can and will be redeemed through Jesus Christ. So what Alex is saying is that this sort of suffering, in his mind, there's just no conceivable way that it could be necessary.
No, but that's not what he's saying. That isn't. No, what he's saying is if God is unrestrained and can do anything, then why any suffering at all? Why can't he give $1 billion to the bar?
I agree.
That's what he's saying.
I agree.
This is all just spinning.
But it comes back around, though, to this idea of necessity.
Yes.
Is it necessary?
And
I say yes. And all I have to do is say that it's possible that it's necessary. Because if there is some possible explanation that's out there, then it isn't a knockdown, drag out sort of argument. It's just well, I can't think of how this might be necessary. Therefore, it's not necessary.
And at the very least, our doctrine does not say the animals did not have some sort of agency in coming to Earth.
Agreed.
Not say that. Correct.
They existed in some form beforehand. And if they had any intelligence beforehand, they had some degree of agency beforehand. And so that would change the analogy to the restaurant owners being a willing participant, knowing beforehand in whatever this process was going to be, the restaurant getting smashed up and then them getting compensated.
Okay, let's get to Jacob.
Okay,
Jacob
last
hitting that pitch.
No more interruptions. We're going to finish it right now.
Finish it off. Here we go.
Jacob Hansen, go.
Though, for instance, a dog that's getting a shot has no idea what's going on. He's just thinking, this hurts and is so terrible. And the thing is if it ultimately saves its life, it's worth it.
Yeah, but imagine
so
if you
there
had the
is a compensatory reward for the suffering that's there, everything can be redeemed.
I understand what you're saying.
And in your view, is life even worth it? Because if life is mostly suffering, even for the animals, then isn't the logical conclusion to end this project altogether?
That's a separate question. If you had the opportunity to not have that dog need the shot, and you gave them the shot anyway. You created the need for the shot, and then gave them the shot and caused them to suffer.
But in
you didn't need to
LDS
give them leave in the first
cosmology,
place.
God doesn't.
That would be wrong.
God does not create the conditions that are where the shot is necessary.
That's
you're
what we need to
correct,
explore.
and you're correct on creedal Christianity. It does, and that's the biggest flaw with it. By the way, I want to give you. That's just. Well, hey,
thanks,
Alex. It's been great.
And
meeting you, man.
that's it. That's when
It is
finally
funny.
tied it
At
up.
the buzzer, I will
Oh.
say, you're absolutely right, Jonah. At the buzzer, I finally hit it. And it is the fact that it's not necessary. We don't believe God creates all the conditions of necessity.
And he
is not-
leaned
is
back.
not-
He leaned back and he says, "Oh yeah, you're right. That's something we need to discuss. Like that's okay. That's really interesting. Like
That was his moment of like, oh,
finally,
you guys have something worth saying, right? Like
Now-
that's what it was to me. And it was fascinating just watching that because I could tell, Jacob, that you were kind of like arguing from the position of like, oh yeah, no, that's not necessary though, right? But that didn't quite get said. And so he was arguing against that very thing. And that was what made that part so hard for me to watch. Because I'm like, just talk about creation ex nihilo. It'll
I
fix
know.
this. Like-
Thanks, Brad.
So-
Thanks for making me feel bad. I get
No,
my
you
shot,
shouldn't.
and
You
then I
shouldn't.
blow it.
No. You shouldn't feel bad
Pulled
because
it out of the end.
you were 100. You got there, right? You got there to the point that he now recognizes. Okay, there is something worth exploring here, right?
I hit the shot with the buzzer going
Well,
off.
Exactly.
You actually even double hit it because if you keep playing it, it has Alex's little 30-second blurb
Yeah,
and
actually,
Jacob's
so
15-second blurb.
This is, I would say, this next part that you're gonna play, which will be our last thing because I have to leave.
you can't
is
kick
the
us
part-
out. We're quitting.
We got
You
tons
can't
of
kick us
memes.
out.
I
We're
would say,
quitting.
I would say this.
Away.
I'm gonna be listening, but I have to go do something right now. I'm already late for it. All right, so it is. I didn't know what happened. So after the whole thing is over, Alex goes and does his interview. Or they do these post-debate interviews. This is where we got to know each other. And Alex was in the other room. I didn't know what he said. And then they interviewed me. Well, I didn't realize that when they interviewed Alex, the first thing he did was he talked about me. So roll the clip. I saw this morning and I was like, oh my gosh, like I felt so cool. Like I really was touched by it. So go ahead and roll it.
Okay, so here we go.
This is probably my favorite thing of this whole video that came out. Honestly, this little clip.
Jacob himself said that a lot of the people here might not even consider him to be a Christian because he's a Latter-day Saint. And I think the best thing that speaking to somebody like him does is reminding you that not all Christians are the same. There's not some uniform Christian worldview. Everybody who comes up is going to have a different opinion. And having a Latter-day Saint in there who has a totally different theology to other Christian denominations, let's say, I think is a good reminder of that.
Overall, it was a really great experience. If I were to give my totally honest opinion, I think it was that Alex O'Connor was able to kind of destroy a lot of creedal Christianity because of the weaknesses in the creedal Christian position. And as a Latter-day Saint, I couldn't help but feel like I think we have things that can help solve a lot of the problems that Alex has with creedal Christianity.
I think I've
That's cut it. End the tape. End it. Like just cut it there. That was when I saw that they put those two clips right next to each other. Like if I was editing this myself, that would have been exactly what I would have done. And the fact that that's the way it came out, I literally heard that. I was driving in my car this morning to actually go do a baby blessing for my best friend. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, no.
Now we actually
like, that's how they ended it. This is crazy.
We actually have that.
Oh my gosh.
So what you just saw is a replay card, and if you look in the Discord where we left off, we actually have this in Old Testament meme.
Yes, I
form
see it, and it's on
for
the
you
screen
here.
right now. Yeah,
and
here
this
it is.
shows Alex O'Connor giving the coat of many colors to the LDS faith. While all the brothers, evangelicals, Protestants, Catholics, New Age Christians, Rainn Wilson, Orthodox, and Jews look on in spite at Joseph. And then we also have the next one. We have Dumbledore, or Alex O'Connor, saying, I think you're all nuts, but 100 points to Griffin Mormons, and giving us the House Cup. Took home the House Cup from that. Now, the one participant that was not there at the debate, and this is a real pity. We have a picture of what I
gotta
wished.
book it. Love you guys.
Okay.
What I wished it would have looked like was if we could have had Keanu Reeves as Constantine debating against Alex. That's for if anybody's ever seen the movie Constantine, which I'm sure Luke has. And then the next one is from Django Unchained showing all the guys with hoods over their heads and the Mormons taking theirs off and saying, I think we all think that Hellenism was a nice idea. And
it's Hellenism.
taking the mask off. And then, of course, there's Jacob Hansen, so proud of himself. I bypassed the cognitive dissonance.
That's funny. That's
and then the last two memes that we have the Wario meme that we just have to have because it's just excellent. Carden, I don't know if you can pull that up.
Yep, I got the Wario meme. Go
when
for
you,
it.
an atheist, save all the delicious quadrupedal pre-cooked bacon sacks, I've won. But at what cost?
But at what cost?
And then, of course, the fact that they put up DNC 82.3 thinking that it was a verse from Ezekiel saying, is this the Creedist canon? And it's DNC. There you go. There's the memes, people. We've done it. We've done it. We saved Christianity from the atheists, and we've memed it in the same way. I got to go kiss my kids goodnight.
Oh, boy.
And he's gone.
Yeah, that was abrupt.
To go.
He hit that button fast. Bye,
That was
Jonah.
abrupt.
Love you,
That
man.
was abrupt.
And you have to go, Jacob.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys
Right.
can all go, and I'm going to round this out with Hayden. I'm going to round out with Hayden and Luke.
If it's okay, if it's all the same to you, Carden, I do have a brief clip.
Hit it.
You,
What is
Jacob.
it? What
a
is
brief clip and meme that I would also like to share.
Hit
I
it,
actually
hit
want to
it.
give a little love to the Christians.
Okay.
If you could, I put it up towards the top by where you put the Zoom link.
Okay.
I put a YouTube clip in there of what I actually found to be Alex's most interesting point, and Hayden brought up in his excellent video, by the way, Alex saying something similar in other places, but we can just play that clip and then
Wait, Randall was the poor guy that had the Doctrine and Covenants clip put in front of him.
Oh, sorry, Randall.
I was wondering what that was. I was like, what are they putting there? What is? I didn't even know what that was. Is that a Mormon?
Yeah.
book?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
It's the revelations mostly from Joseph Smith. Is the Doctrine and Covenants, yeah.
And I think
that was a quote from Jesus. So I was from the Gospels. So I didn't know why they put that.
Yeah, Joseph Smith oftentimes when basically the Doctrine and Covenants is a record of Joseph Smith's revelations and sermons and sayings. They got loosely compiled. There was a lot of persecution of the early saints in the 19th century, so not everything was able to be recorded, but that which was considered sacred by these people. And as they escaped the persecutions in the East and fled west, some of them were actually carried out of burning buildings by girls that had to hide in cornfields because they were just slaughtering the all the members of the church that they could find. And
I think they were just tar and feathering them in that particular incident, but
look,
it did happen.
Whatever it was, you had girls escaping with what they thought was their life in sacred scripture, similar to how the Essenes were, burying the Dead Sea Scrolls in those caves because, they thought that their demise was near. And so anyway, it was later on compiled and then kind of edited, and it's called Doctrine and Covenants. And oftentimes the Bible is quoted by Joseph Smith in the Doctrine and Covenants. So what's funny is we assume that the editor, when searching for the quote that you had mentioned, stumbled upon a Mormon verse, because now forever, the rest of your life, you've got that Chiron emblazoned in the bottom of your, you've been baptized by the editors at Jubilee, bro.
That's hilarious. That's going to haunt me for sure.
Yeah, dude, that's funny, man. Well, Hayden Carroll, he's Hayden Carroll looks like a solid Protestant with his little Bible and his finger up pose on the cover. So anyway, I'm going to pull up this one clip. Is it the one you put in? I don't see the one.
Yeah, the one I put in, the timestamp that I put in.
Okay, I'm going to look for that. Was it before or after the memes line?
Right before the memes.
Okay, I see it. Luke Hansen, here it is. Boom. Okay.
This kind of stuff. But the crucial point is that if I had such a religious experience, I have no doubt that it would probably turn me into a Christian. And God willing, it will happen one day. That would be awesome. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened yet. And as far as that goes to convincing anybody else, people will say that's not evidence. And it's not. But it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be for you. It's supposed to be the reason that you have to believe in God. And it's probably the best reason you can have for believing in God. Unfortunately, that's not going to do very much for me, because these stories of sort of demons being driven out and this kind of stuff, I think the only thing that demons seem to be more scared of than Jesus is a camera. If I can see this kind of stuff happen,
all right. And that's good right there. But this is very interesting because at least to me, you can tell Alex is being sincere here and he's being serious. And he's saying, because this was the girl that was sharing like I actually saw Jesus and I've seen him working in the lives of a lot of people. And Alex said, like, yes, that would be the religious experience. The religious experience would be what converts me. And so he keeps bringing up something like animal suffering. Sorry for beating that dead horse now, but he keeps bringing up animal suffering, but he admits what's actually going to convert him if it happens, and he seems sincerely interested in it happening because it'd mean a lot of really cool things, is an actual religious experience with God. And so I think that's what makes him above somebody like a Richard Dawkins or Christopher Hitchens, because they've just got like their pot shots. They're just being funny. They got their cool English accents. They're just taking on all the Christians in their debates and their books. But Alex is actually grappling with the real implications of what would actually make me convert over to this and why that would actually be an awesome thing. And just as a side note, they're doing exactly what they accuse us of doing, is because we say, oh, I prayed about the Book of Mormon, I had an experience with God, I know that it's true. And they say, well, you can't use that as evidence. It's like, well, I'm not saying that's why you need to believe it. I'm just explaining to you that's why I believe it, and I'm inviting you to try and have that same experience. So it was it felt good to see Christians going down the same route that we go down and then having the same response put back to them. But I think this particular clip is why the Christians didn't do that bad, is because at least a couple of them, you got the sense that it was actually a meaningful thing in their life that improved their life, and they actually had experiences that they genuinely believed were with Christ. And so even though there wasn't very much in the way of good arguments presented in the episode, or at least the ones that were diluted by a lot of not very good arguments, at the very least, I think it came across that at least some Christians really believe that they are in a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so even though they don't have good arguments, I think they may have done better than people analyzing the episode may initially think. Does that check out with you, Randall?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so.
Yeah, I was going to say, this girl was one of my favorites on the show. She seemed very sincere. I loved how
she had no arguments. Like, she could not, I'm pretty sure she couldn't recite the Kalam cosmological argument to save her life. But you still know that she has a relationship with Christ.
Well, and this is also where I think that Randall and your Pentecostal brothers and sisters have a real big opportunity here, because even the Alex O'Connors of this world said, hey, well, that's the religious experience, and maybe if I had it, I'd be convinced, but until then, no. He just has to have that. And frankly, there's not a lot of Christian denominations that are giving it now. They've been so beaten up by atheism that they're afraid of admitting that, yes, we believe in healings. We believe in the miraculous. We believe that God can operate in your life, and he can drastically improve it in a way that cannot be explained simply as, well, tithing helped me become aware of my finances, so I started making better decisions. No, maybe it's just a blessing that came from God. And, oh, well, I was healed because of a psychosomatic improvement in my positive outlook on life. No, maybe it was actually the power of God manifesting in your life. Like, she was running into the burning building of esotericism, of miraculous happenings, of beliefs and healings, instead of running away from it out of like some kind of embarrassment. Your thoughts, Randall?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, our salvation or our relationship with Christ is not a mental or intellectual assent. It's not even primarily just an agreement with the truth. Even the demons believe and shudder. It is a union with a person. And we are not saved by knowledge. We are saved by faith, and by grace through faith. So it's not, there was one more thing I wanted to say about that, but yeah, I think, the power of God, that's what you're getting at. The power of God, like Paul said, is that the kingdom of God is not a matter of, eating and drinking or of, talk, but of power. And so if we don't have the power because we don't have a unified witness, and then there is no reality to a union with God.
All right. Awesome. So Hayden, you have to answer these last 3 super chats and then I'm shutting her down. I'm exhausted, baby. I don't know how you lasted this long, bro. You're a freaking warrior, dude. We got the Lebanese Chad right here. just in it to win it for the duration. And Hayden, he's the only guy besides me and Luke that's been here from beginning to end, baby. All the others are wimps, man. All the others are wimps. So Mike Bell says, Q for Randall. What kind of flex? Oh, no, sorry. That was the last one we read. Zane says, Jacob, what would your approach be in another potential conversation with Alex surrounding the topic of creation ex nihilo? We'll ask him that when he gets back. Shauna says, Persians and Lebanese share a lot of ancient DNA with Western Europeans. Thanks, ancient horse raiders. Oh, so you got any horse raider DNA, bro? What? The horse raiders? Is it like
Phoenician by ancestry? I don't know. I have no idea. I know we were traders, but yeah, I guess we were.
Have you seen the Phoenician boat that it's a Latter-day Saint group that has purchased the Phoenician boat that was built with nothing but 600 BC hand-built materials and everything that proved that the Phoenicians could cross the Atlantic?
Wow, I have not seen that. I would love to.
Oh, Rod Meldrum runs this really fun group of dudes. They think the Book of Mormon happened in North America instead of South America. They're like this awesome little rebel group of like little rebel archaeologists. It's like everything cool about Graham Hancock and Indiana Jones mixed into like Rush Limbaugh. You know what I'm saying? These guys are great. We love everything about them.
Really good description.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like we love everything about these cats, right? But they are dedicated to their thesis. And they went out of their way. There was this boat called the Phoenician that was sponsored, I believe, by the Lebanese government, if I'm not mistaken, because Tyre and Damascus were the original Phoenician cities, right? So in the harbor there, with nothing but local wood building materials and 600 BC hand tools, they built a Phoenician boat, and then a crew of 6 guys. I've talked to some of the crew members themselves. They sailed it through the Suez Canal, down around the Cape of Good Horn, and were blown off course all the way basically to Florida, to the Caribbean. And they did it like a 32-day version, and I'm totally botching the truncation of this story for time, but it was ultimately stuck in Italy, going to be made a museum out of it, and then a storm sank it, and they were going to literally scuttle it and make an artificial reef out of it. But these guys bought it, went over there with chop saws, took it apart, and now it's in this museum. They're rebuilding it in Iowa. It's a legitimate Phoenician boat that built with nothing but 6th century BC hand tools effectively crossed the ocean. So all of those sayings of Herodotus, where it said supposedly 100 years earlier that they found the New World, and the Phoenicians could have done it. And that's significant for us as members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because it archaeologically justifies Mulek, a character of the Book of Mormon. And it's significant for Phoenicians and modern Lebanese people, because it would then really kind of cancel out the archaeological kibosh that has been put on transoceanic voyages. And now Christopher Columbus wouldn't be the OG ocean crosser. It would mean one of your Lebanese brothers and sisters in just as tasteful a Hawaiian shirt as you had probably did it back in the day, you know?
That's
so
great. I'll look into that. That's fascinating.
So how, like 2 hours ago, Randall, how likely did you think it was that you were going to be hearing about Book of Mormon evidences from a guy in a studio in LA?
Yeah,
on
that's
the Mormon live
zero out of 100. Yeah, did not expect my night to go like this.
last two super chats. Alan Michael Bo, I can't read the rest, says, sorry, it was 77, 2, and 3, not 76. Late night in Alabama. Yes, it is. Fog Defense says, cats have more of a soul than Calvinists. I know. Savage. And thank you, Jonah, for the book as well. Okay. Those are all the super chats. We're all caught up. Hayden, we haven't heard from you a while. We want to hear final thoughts from you and Randall before we go. You guys were the stars of the show. We want to hear your final thoughts and everything. Hayden, you go first.
I think I just want to echo what Randall said. If you're looking, I'm looking here on YouTube. You had over 1,000 people still watching just on YouTube alone.
Yeah.
Latter-day Saints, especially, who are watching this, go back and play. What was it, 5 or 10 minutes ago, when Randall said, "What's important is our relationship with Jesus Christ." All of this philosophical stuff is fun, and it's. I wouldn't say it's necessary, but maybe it's necessary, but it's not sufficient, right? don't get caught up, right? If you don't consider yourself a philosopher by any means, go back to what Randall said. Just go watch this little clip. As you're talking, I'm like, we could just end the meeting here. Like, and by the way, thank you, Randall, for what you said about my interaction with him. I didn't have a chance to thank you for that. Isn't that what God is trying to do? Is simplify. He's trying to say, hey, I want you to choose me. And that's ultimately what this is. And so anyway, I had a good time on Jubilee. I thought they were really fair. I thought Alex was awesome. I wish we would have had time tonight to talk more about our dinner date with him. That was really fun. Maybe another time, but we'll get to it. But anyway, thanks for having me on. This was fun.
Yeah, Randall, hit us, my man. Hit us.
Yeah, Paul said, where is the wise? Where is the debater of this age? Has God not made foolish all the wisdom of this world? Has he not chosen through the foolishness of preaching to save those who believe? So, not many of us, as he says, were wise when we were chosen. So I believe that it's the debate, and you can tell from Alex, you can tell that, the intellectual side of things is not really what he's after. And, most intellectual objections are just a mask hiding an emotional problem or an emotional need or an emotional desire. Really, it's a spiritual desire and need. And I think that's really what you have to get behind in order to reach the heart. And that's what Christ is after, obviously. So, no, you guys, just want to say thank you guys. You guys have been so hospitable, true hospitality, and like Lebanese are supposed to be known for. So I really felt that. I felt at home with you guys. So I really appreciate the common spirit that you guys share.
Can you talk to your husbands, not your husbands, your cousins over here at the local Lebanese restaurant? Tell them to lower their prices a little bit, just like a little bit. Can you work those back channels, bro?
Trust me, I don't even eat at Lebanese restaurants for the same reason.
It's funny. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for hanging out with us at wardradio.com. If you guys want to purchase a War in Heaven veteran hat, we've got a new shipment of those in, but they are going fast. If you would like to support the channel, make sure you guys check that out. Also, you can buy a shirt there as well. This has been a totally awesome live stream, and as we say always, it's been real and it's been fun, and it's been real fun for this and more. Oh, wait, Hayden's showing it up. You can also get the Ward Radio ties there, awesome, or shirts. It's all available at wardradio.com. So Randall, hang on the Zoom just for 30 seconds after the outro music so we can talk. Other than that, it's been real. It's been
We're going to
fun.
be quiet for 30 seconds on Zoom so the outro music can play, and then we can chat a little bit after the show.
Yes. Yeah. So it's been real, and it's been fun, and it's been real fun. For this and more, please make sure you check us out at wardradio.com.
I built a rocket in my basement. I'm gonna fly it to the moon. This supersonic is amazing. You're gonna feel my sonic boom. I'm flying higher and I'm never coming down. Look at me now.